Okay, we got everybody?
We swim in the mornings together.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to call the January 14th, 2014 Longmont City Council open forum meeting to order. Could we please start with the roll call?
Mayor Coombs,
Present.
Council Members Bagley, Christensen, Finley, Levison, Moore, Santos. Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right. Let's start our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. They've got a proclamation designating the week of January 20th to the 26th, 2014 as honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Week in Longmont, Colorado, whereas January 20th, 2014 marks the Dr. Martin Luther King holiday on which we honor the civil rights work of Dr. King and countless supporters who sacrificed to sow the seeds for a movement of peace, equality, and justice for all. And we commemorate the universal unconditional love, forgiveness, and nonviolence that empowers his revolutionary spirit. And whereas across the nation, throughout the state, and in the city of Longmont honoring Dr. King as becoming the day of service to our community, and whereas the events held here in Longmont are made possible by many volunteers from diverse backgrounds who have come together to share the importance of the civil rights movement and the need to take action to continue the values of courage, truth, compassion, dignity, humility, and service. And whereas the events on January 20th will be the opportunity for us all to come together to learn about the legendary Dr. King, to take part in a call to action which will share how to engage in actions throughout 2014 in supporting a caring and inclusive community. The students of Silver Creek Leadership Academy have acted by partnering with the Longmont Multicultural Action Committee to support this event and ensure that the history of the civil rights movement and Dr. King remain alive for us all. Now, therefore, I, Dennis L. Coombs, Mayor, by the virtue of the authority vested in me and the City Council of the City of Longmont, do hereby proclaim the week of January 20th through 26th, 2014 as honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Week in Longmont, and invite all to attend the events honoring Dr. King. Thank you. Is there someone here who would like to receive the presentation? Also, if you'd like to say a few words, you're sure welcome. Yes.
Good evening to you all. Good evening, council members, mayor, and citizens of Longmont. We'd like, as we receive it, when we get to that part, we'd like those that are supporting us in this effort to stand. But I'd like to say, on behalf of those that have given their lives so that we enjoy the benefits that we do enjoy today, we do accept the award, and we are pledging it to those of tomorrow that we will be relying on to make decisions for us, the children. Now, we also accept it in their honor. Now, my name is Madeline Strong Woodley, and my sister, Glenda Strong Robinson. We are the two that they designated to receive the award tonight. Now, Glenda, I've never, ever, ever known not to talk. Although she said she didn't have anything to say. I saw her writing. No, Tracy, there's the mic right there.
Just
Thank you to Mayor Coombs and the council members. As I was sitting there, and I did tell her, don't you call my name, I'm not saying a word. I am a talker, and so I can't help myself. So tonight, I would like to accept the award and for the proclamation on behalf of our ancestors. We just had our reunion this past summer, and I just want to run down the lineage a little bit. John Wesley and Mary Hill Stewart were my great-grandparents, and they were slaves. Murda Sylvester Strong and Ida Bell Stewart Strong were my grandparents. They were free. John E. Strong Sr. and Annie Maud Brooks Strong were our parents. All the prices that they paid, they gave when they didn't have. They shared when they couldn't. They said, love everybody and do what you can. And so I just know in heaven they're rejoicing on behalf of their two daughters, saying, look at my girls accepting this award on behalf of Martin Luther King as Martin Luther King Week. And so thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Glenda. Madeline.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick photo. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. One side. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you.
Okay, we have open forum tonight. Each member of the public will have 5 minutes to share their thoughts about speaking their mind, and please state your name and address before you begin speaking. I would also, since I see some families with small kids, I don't know if people would be upset if we tried to push them up to the front of the line. So if you signed up on this list and you have small kids and would like to go first, I'd like to try to accommodate you, if that's okay with the rest of the council. Okay. All right. So long as we get to keep the children. Okay. So first up. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead and state your name and address.
My name is Leslie. Oh, sorry. My name is Isabel Saunders. Oh, there you go. My name is Isabel Saunders. I live at 1366 McClure Drive, Longmont, Colorado. And I was thinking when I grew up where I wanted to live. And I was thinking that I wanted to live here. Because it has a very sentimental value to me because I grew up here and I've always played at the parks and the pool, and it was very fun for me and my brother and sister to always play together at the pools. And that is why I've decided to live in Longmont when I grow up.
Thank you.
May I ask her a question?
Sure.
Can you come back and ask you a question? We get to ask you things too. We get to talk actually.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I I like a lot. I like to do a lot of things. Mostly, I want to be an Olympic athlete.
Do you want to be a swimmer?
Yes.
You know, Councilmember Bagley loves to swim too. So does the
Good
mayor.
job.
So do you think there's enough swimming opportunities for you to become an Olympic swimmer?
Yes.
And you're going to have to work pretty hard, huh?
Mhm.
What's your favorite swimming pool?
Sunset pool.
Great, great. Thank you for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Can I leave now?
Sure. Yeah, you can leave. Thank you.
Hello. This is a bit of an awkward topic to present after that. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. My name is Leslie Harrington. I live at 326 Collier Street. My husband traded his life savings for what we naively thought was our dream house back in October. We drove all the way from New Jersey to Longmont, Colorado in the hopes of starting a new and better life for our baby. Unfortunately, our experience here has been nothing short of a nightmare. 2 of my neighbors have been attacked by meth addicts in recent weeks. In the short time that we've been here, we've had 2 intruders on our property, both high on meth. We have come to find out that the previous owner of our house has had a gun pointed at him, as well as a brick thrown through the front door. I cannot stress to you enough that the people on my block, my family, and my 1-year-old are living in a constant state of fear and a constant state of danger. I had visions of walking to Main Street with our dog and our baby in a stroller, but instead we stay locked inside our house, blinds drawn at all times. It keeps us from seeing the constant stream of addicts and dealers that pass by walking from the Hour Center to the local flop house. But we still can't avoid hearing the screams, the cursing, and the fights that take place within 20 feet of our front door. When I do leave the house with my baby in my arms, my husband has to escort us to the car because we have already stumbled upon a 200-pound man passed out in our driveway in the back alley. With his pants down, that's true. Because we have only had ourselves to rely on, we have made our case very public, in turn escalating our level of danger. I don't want to be exposed like this. I don't want to have this fight, but we are in a position where we have no other choice. The rights of the Hour Center, the rights of the drug addicts, the property rights of the owner of the flop house have all been taken into consideration. At this point, I don't have the right to take my dog for a walk around the block. My 1-year-old doesn't have the right to play outside. And we don't have the right to fall asleep without having a makeshift weapon near our beds. God forbid it ever comes to that. If the Hour Center and flop house are going to remain on our block, and if the meth addicts and pedophiles are going to be allowed to roam our streets freely, causing us to live like prisoners in our own houses, there should at the very least be police protection for us 24 hours a day. There should be a police car parked outside our houses at all times. Something needs to be done because with the way things are now, I wouldn't dare pass this nightmare on to another family. I now have visions of returning to New Jersey with our life savings down the drain, our hard work eaten up by the black hole that is the 300 block of Collier Street. I hope that's not the case. I hope that you can fully understand the urgency of our situation, and I really hope that somebody can make this problem disappear however it has to be done. Because at the moment our lives have been ruined, and it's really a sad state of affairs when we, the residents of our block, have done everything right to get where we are, and our lives, our children's lives, are in the hands of people who made the choice to throw their own lives away. We can't take any more. We're fed up, and we need help. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Councilmember Levison.
Thank you for coming this evening, and I'll just give you a couple of. By the way, I live in your neighborhood, and well, I have to tell you that I have some firsthand experience. A past neighbor was a methamphetamine addict, and the history of the house that I live in. The family lived there. Two owners before me decided to move because the house next door, that was managed by a property management company and owned by a little old lady, is. Well, come down so we can dialogue.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, this problem. Bring your child. This problem has existed in our community for a number of years, and well, you know what? Things do improve. Okay.
If you live where we live, why do you think we're here? You think we want to do this? We just want to enjoy.
Well, if you didn't, well, you know what? I think you want to do it because this is your opportunity to have a back and forth discussion about it. And I think that the Our Center staff and the director of the Our Center will be talking to City Council, and we're going to see what we can do to help out your situation. But the problem, go ahead. Both of them can be on, sir.
Can I just ask everybody, does that sound remotely adequate to you for someone who's begging for their safety of their family? Well, we're going to talk about it and see what we can do. There's a lot of paperwork. Now, we know the police are doing something, thank God. But even that has not stopped this endless nightmare. Now, how come it can go on for 3 years? 3 years. You can see this house from the police station. You can see it. They know about it. They've raided it 3 times with a SWAT team. 3. When is enough? How many SWAT raids does it take before someone just goes, this problem is never going to go away? Anyway, I'm sorry I'm getting out of order here, but...
No, I don't think you're out.
I've had more than enough. And I look at this, it says, you belong in Longmont. And I just want to laugh because, I mean, I don't know. I would like to hear someone with some power say something, like, we're going to do something about this, for real.
Councilmember Bagley, do you want to add a
Thank you, Mayor Kuhn. First of all, there was there's only one part of your wife's presentation I disagreed with.
Okay.
And that was, you said, we're fighting. And I don't think you should have to fight. And so
I agree.
And so I think it's pretty simple. Okay. The good thing about council is that all you need is 4 votes.
Right.
Okay. So I guess what I would like to know, okay, so just showing what you do. Hopefully this is how good government works. So I would ask city staff, Harold, what I would like is I'd like an update on, I know where they live, but I'd like to know what house they're talking about, what action's being taken. I think we'd also like to know, are there extra patrols, what's going on? And I guess the real question I have is, number one, if people are using meth or they're on drugs, as a criminal defense attorney, I can tell you they can be arrested and removed. And then I think as a city council, if in fact what he's saying is true, we can condemn the house.
It's already condemned. There's still people living in there, and they're still selling meth out of that house.
Okay, so my point is, it's not too hard to make it go away. And so I guess I'd just like an update on what's going on next council meeting, if that's possible. And then it's not rocket science. I agree with you. It's not rocket science. And as I was hearing you talk, I recognize, and I think a lot of us on council recognize that there's an issue right now downtown with, you gotta, on one hand we want to be welcoming, but at the same time we want to be welcoming to you.
Yeah, I have to disagree there with you a little bit because in my experience, the addicts and the vagrants who harass us constantly, okay? There's no way that any of you actually know what it's like, because if you know what it was like, you wouldn't even be sitting there. You'd be down there personally doing it. Now, there's other neighbors here, and I just want to add, I'm not just speaking for myself. This is not a personal feud. There are many other residents who are too afraid to be here right now, or they're too bitter because they've been let down by the system again and again and again. Now, on Saturday, I took an audacious risk and put my name out there just to try and get some help here on the front page of the paper, okay? The same day, a vagrant from the R House chased an elderly, frail lady. from our center, sorry, chased a lady into her house, screaming, cursing, kicked her fence, vandalized her Christmas decorations, threatened her, and here's the quote that he said, "There's nothing the cops can do to stop me." That's what this guy said. Now, this poor woman totally refuses to leave her house, doesn't want to talk to any cops, nothing. It's that point that we're at.
So here's what I'm willing to do.
That is the tip of the iceberg.
Like I said, what will happen is, okay, other than the paper article,
Yeah.
I guarantee you, next Tuesday, our city manager will dictate the city staff,
Yeah.
and he'll probably have something for us to review, and we'll figure out what's going on, and it won't be ignored. I'll bring it up.
I hope in the meantime that you can make sure you can guarantee our protection over there, because the second the police go away, the drug dealing starts up again. And there's tons of unpredictable, whacked out people that come up on our porch, try to get in our house, pass out in our backyard.
And city managers just went like this and pointed to the police officers.
They got, the cops are the only ones who really know what's going on here.
So, I mean,
Can I just say one more thing? Because we've been through hell. And this is everything. I put all my money into this house. I chose Longmont because I thought, what a perfect, safe, quaint, gorgeous, friendly city where I can prosper and raise my family. And it has not worked out that way. But this is what I'm asking for in addition to the specific protection for us. I truly believe that you need a more assertive policing strategy across the board. Even most of these meth addicts that got arrested in the SWAT raid were released within hours. Hours. I saw them back out on the street the same night. If you don't give them a reason to stop, they're never going to stop. And I can tell you from seeing it up close, meth equals crime. It is a 1-to-1 ratio. You do nothing about meth, you're doing nothing about crime, because they are the ones committing all of the crimes. There's not one person in that house of 13 people that had a job. Not one job. How do you think they're supporting themselves? Free food from our center, selling drugs, and burglarizing houses and cars. Unless I'm missing something. So if it's the judges, then we need new judges or they need new instructions. But we've got to start putting some people in jail. And I am an imperfect messenger to say this. I will be the first to acknowledge it. I've never called the police in my life until I moved to Longmont. Ever. I was one of those, it's a police state guys, like, you know? So it's not a police state. Just because you hear siren doesn't mean it's a police state. There's a lot of people in Longmont, like this guy, okay, who was arrested right there, that needs to be in jail. This guy needs to be in jail. Why is he not in jail? I'm going to just read this quote. I immediately recognized Eric as a local resident who had recently been arrested for invasion of privacy for sexual gratification. Eric had also been involved in similar activity throughout the city of Longmont, where he had trespassed on others' yards and was caught peering into their residences at night through the residents' bedroom windows. I was personally aware of 4 prior incidents. Court records show 1 previous arrest. Why? Why do you let this guy walk around in the streets? Somebody tell me. Or don't tell me, but I don't want to see this guy in my neighborhood again. I would tell that to the city manager, whoever you are. I don't want to see this freaking guy ever again. I'll just leave this here. Can I pass it around?
Just hand it to the
Yeah.
clerk. Yeah. All right. Councilmember Finley?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I want to thank you for coming and telling us about this problem, and you're right, something needs to be done, and I'm glad that you came and shared that.
One more thing. This was the Boulder City Council. Okay, this was the headline. Boulder to re-examine spending on homeless, step up downtown enforcement. City Council makes addressing issue of transients a priority. I strongly urge you to read this and heed this, because you need to do the same thing. That's all I got to say. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Councilmember Christensen.
I want to thank you for coming too. When I moved to Denver with my 3-year-old, we moved in next to what I thought was a nice little house in a nice little neighborhood, and they were gang members next to me. They threatened me and my son. I do understand, and it's a nightmare. And the police did nothing in Denver to help me. They suggested I buy a gun. So I don't want you guys to move. I don't want you to, yeah. We'd like to, yes, okay. Thank you for coming.
Was there anybody else with small children who'd like to get them out in there? Okay, then I'll just start down the list. Ruth Denhard.
So this doesn't. Okay. Because I'm the one that has. Are you? Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'll just put from here. So you can. Oh, okay. If I can read it. Thank you. I'm Ruth Denhard. I live at 131 East 9th Avenue. And I'm here to represent the residents of Kensington neighborhood. I have some pictures and stuff. Oh, sorry. I don't like to talk in the microphone.
That's the only way we're going to be able to hear you.
Okay, this is walking down Kensington neighborhood. I live at 131 East 9th Avenue. And this is a picture of our playground. And it's 27 years old. We've lived at our house 27 years. And this playground has been there since we moved into our house. Let me show you another picture. And by the way, would anybody want to stop and play at this playground if they walk by? If you have little kids, would you consider this a place to stop? I'll just scroll through the pictures. So there's 2 swings, 1 slide, and 1 kind of a monkey bar. And back in 2005, we were part of a task force for our neighborhood. And this is our master plan for our neighborhood. And this shows the picture of the new playground right there where it's supposed to be. And it was supposed to be installed this year, actually. And I guess it got cut because of the flooding. These are some of the cost estimates that back in May of 2005 that we came up with. And this is the playground. It was $98,000 to install a new playground. And this is I had a copy of this. I'm not sure where I got it, but the capital improvement program, and it was funded in the 2011 to 2015. And here's the funds that we were supposed to have. In 2014. And I was here earlier. I was talking to Dawn, I think it was, and she showed me the new capital improvement program, and this is now unfunded. And I'm assuming it's because of the flood. But so I'm here on behalf of our neighborhood because we are a neighborhood of 450 houses. We have a lot of kids in our neighborhood, and that playground
does not support, that many kids. We are getting the South Playground, but most of that funding came privately from a contribution. So, there's our playground again, just for visual aid. And actually, our kids were part of the task force, or whatever you want to call it, that helped design the new playground. And my son actually moved out of the house, and my daughter's a junior in high school. So they got to help plan what they wanted to have in the playground, but maybe someday their grandkids, their kids can play in the playground that they designed. So, and every meeting that we have, every neighborhood meeting we have, people in our neighborhood say, when are we going to get our playground? That's the biggest issue, is they want to know when it's going to happen. We have had some of the improvements. We have the new basketball court, the restroom, a little parking area, a new picnic shelter, a few benches.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes, and I think that I know Kensington neighborhood worked really hard on that park task force as part of a revitalization project. I'm just wondering, from the staff perspective, we've already had the big overview of the Parks and Trails Master Plan, and I'm just wondering whether or not in that process were any of the neighborhoods that had done these collaborative projects and task force to do the design work for park improvements, were those taken into account? Some of those plans, I know your plan will be 10 years old. We did one for Collier Park, and it was ratified by the council in 2003, and the park improvements finally happened in 2013. So it does take time. I'm just hoping that we could have staff, I would hope the staff would look into prioritizing those parks that had already a community vision. I know you guys worked really hard on that. So I would like staff to follow up and see how are we going to prioritize things when we've already had some master plan work done outside of, I don't know, Dale, if you want to answer that question.
I can real quick. Mayor Combs and Councilmember Levison. So the Kensington playground is still coming out. It is not one that's been deferred by the flood. It's Kathy Crone's project, and we can give you an update on that in maybe your next week's packet or so. There's also a playground under design for Affolter Park. Suffice it to say, there's many playgrounds that need to be rebuilt around the system, as we've been talking with council about. But your specific question of whether or not there's the prioritization of those took into account some of the neighborhood processes, I don't know that answer right now, but I can let you know that. My guess is we also based it on condition of the playground and the safety of the playground equipment. But so hope that helps a little bit.
Do you know, are we scheduled for this year at all?
Yes. Yes, and it did get delayed a little bit with the flood from a staff workload, but I do know it's Kathy's project, and we can give you an update.
Okay.
Yeah. How quick you act?
Yes.
Mayor.
Thank
you, Mayor. Dale, can you just get Ruth's information and perhaps get something in our packet for next week,
right,
information, and also just get Ruth's information, and perhaps Kathy can get in touch with Ruth.
Right.
That'd be great.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ruth. Dennis Zimmer. Okay.
Hi, my name is Dennis Zimmer. I live at 1026 Spencer Street, and I have one question for the mayor. I would like to know if you're on Bloomberg's Mayors for Illegal Guns list.
I am not on it right now. I did receive quite a few, about 48 requests from citizens of Longmont to join that. I was going to bring this up with this new council to see if I could get 4 votes that would allow me to put my name. I'd be proud to put my name on that list. I haven't done that yet.
I hope you don't.
Okay. Well, nice to hear.
Thank you.
Hey, Dennis.
Councilman Hadley.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, Dennis. Nice to see you outside the Y. You know, that's all I needed to say.
Okay.
Kids are good.
Okay, the next name is, the first name is Steve, and the last is either V-I-V-L-T-E-R or V-H-E-Z. Lives at 1309 Wilderness.
Wild Rose.
Okay. Wild Rose.
Mayor, council members, good evening. My name's Steve Vitez. I live at 1309 Wild Rose Court, right here in the lovely town of Longmont. I'm here representing King Auto Group, where we took over the Hyatt building on Lynn 19. The definition of a clean city is to advance the engineering, the energy, economic, environmental security of the United States by supporting local initiatives to adopt practices that reduce the use of petroleum in the transportation industry. Excuse me. We sell a lot of Chevy Volts, and my customers are a little fight between them all, but they're getting about 300 miles per gallon on those things. But the reason I'm here, if anyone needs a truck, to look at our CNG trucks. It runs on natural gas. It's clean burning. If the trucks are around apartments or campsites, you don't have the emissions smell. There's $3,300 in federal tax initiatives. We have a $1,000 tax initiative so that you can fill up at a building. You don't have to go to a gas station or a station. Anyone could put a pump on their home, office, or maintenance building and just run the natural gas that you're heating the place with. And then there's also a 50-cent gallon tax initiative for just buying the gas. I think I'm down to 25 units right now. The list price on those old guys are $57,000. I'm taking 11 grand off, 11.5 off, and with all the tax incentives, that'll bring this thing down to about 38 grand. So if you guys are replacing trucks or want to look to increase the fleet or go green, we're in Boulder County, and when people think of green, they think of Boulder County. We have multiple charging stations for the Volt all around Longmont and in Boulder, and I just wanted to bring this up that this is Boulder County's heritage, eating bark and going green. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Steve. Are those trucks for you, Dan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they get a range of 650 miles, and they're slick. They're really slick.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Dana Willett? It's like a triathlete.
Good evening. My name is Dana Willett. I live at 2208 Lake Park Drive in Longmont. I'm the editor of 303 Triathlon, and I'm also an amateur triathlete. I'm here to address the cancellation of the Longmont Triathlon. Our city has a motto, "You belong in Longmont." We are a blended community of socioeconomic backgrounds, races, physical types, and professions. I recently swam laps at Centennial Pool in a lane next to Mayor Dennis Coombs, and we chatted about the weather. It's easy to belong here.
So he wasn't swimming.
Rest intervals. The Longmont Triathlon is an integral part of our history and our lifestyle. This important fitness and social event should not be sacrificed for several reasons. First of all, the Longmont Triathlon is the longest running triathlon in the state of Colorado. 2014 would be its 34th year. No other event can make that claim. With the rapid growth of the sport of triathlon, including inclusion in the Olympics, its numbers of participants are multiplying. According to USAT, the sport of triathlon is the fastest growing in the U.S. Olympic movement. That Longmont lays claim to this historic event in Colorado is a marketing campaign for the city just waiting to happen. Triathlon creates revenue-generating opportunities and fosters community relations. Secondly, the Longmont Triathlon has the support of many area businesses, organizations, and sports professionals. The Longmont Masters Swim Team supports this event in full force and are all eager volunteers. Darren Eisman of Racing Underground, the timing company, is fully on board for running the timing portion of the event in 2014. Lance Panagudi of Without Limits, the company that runs the 3 Longmont triathlons at Union Reservoir, told me, "It is sad to see such a fixture no longer on the calendar. I know many personal friends who found their passion for the lifestyle, along with many top national veterans whom all got their start over the years in Longmont. You have our full support." Dave Kristen, race director for Ironman Boulder, told me, "I am sad to hear such a historic and traditional race close up its run. We hope the city and organizers reconsider and try to make it work. It is such a great entry-type race to the sport, and we never like to see those options go away." Nicole DeBoom, former Longmont Redtail swim coach, professional triathlete, and founder of Skirt Sports, said, "I am very aware of that race. I competed one year back in my Redtails coaching days. It's an event worth fighting for." She went on to say she would lend any expertise she could to keep it going. Bob Cranny, veteran triathlete, owner of Altitude Physical Therapy, and longtime sponsor of the Longmont Triathlon, told me tonight he will continue his support of the event at a level of $2,500 minimum. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, this event is the epitome of our city's motto, "You belong in Longmont." What is different about the Longmont Tri from others in the area is that the swim is in the pool instead of open water, making it especially beginner-friendly. The format of the Longmont Tri is only part of the equation, though. What makes this event especially unique is the very local feel of the race and the abundant amount of friendliness. My friend Laura is a mother of 3. She wanted to make an attempt at this popular, growing sport. She trained for the Longmont Tri for several months. Before the race, she was nervous. But all around her, participants were chatting casually, kids were cheering for their parents, and everyone was smiling. When it was her turn to enter the water, she got in, but with all the excitement, she started too quickly. Almost immediately, a panic attack set in, common among newer swimmers. She had worked so hard toward this goal, and she didn't want to have to stop, but she had to. She was crying. Race director Karen Charles spotted Laura, bent down, and put a reassuring hand on Laura's shoulder, saying, "Don't worry, it's okay. Just catch your breath, take your time, and we'll start you again." Laura finished that swim and the entire race with a huge smile over the finish line. Today, Laura says, "If Karen hadn't given me the opportunity to restart the swim in my first try, I probably would not have gone on to complete 4 more. We are a fortunate community to have the ability to be exposed to the sport in a safe, supportive community like Longmont. It would be a disservice to the people of Longmont to discontinue this event." The Longmont Tri is a perfect illustration of the motto, "You belong in Longmont." You only need to see the beaming faces of the finishers to know they feel they belong. They belong in our community. They belong in a lifestyle of health and fitness. They belong in Longmont. And the oldest running triathlon in the state of Colorado belongs in Longmont. Please don't cancel the Longmont Triathlon.
Thank you, Dana. I have to admit, you made a lot of good points. I mean, it was a starter triathlon for me. I wasn't a good swimmer when I first started, and, you know, it was the triathlon that led to me doing the Ironman in Hawaii twice and going to New Zealand, and, I mean, it helped shape my life. I mean, I think I did it in 1981, I think, the first year, and did it for 28 straight years, so it was a lot of good memories in that race.
Won't you miss it this year?
Yes, I will. I definitely will miss it.
So please change that decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bradley. Thank you, Mayor Combs. I'm just curious. I'm curious how many people are here for that issue. Okay, So my question, first of all, I love to swim, I love to bike, but that's because they don't involve gravity. You know, you would catch me dead. You don't want to go back up the hills, do you? No, I don't. So you would catch me dead in the triathlon because I can't run. So I guess my question is, and I asked this, I don't know if Jeff's here or Karen. I know you sent out an email earlier today. I guess my question is, on behalf of what we just heard, A, why are we canceling it? And B, are we in a position to rethink that? And thank you for being here.
You're welcome. My name is Karen Roney. I'm Community Services Director. One of the things that that certainly our city staff has been doing over the course of the last couple of years, as we're looking at prioritization and budget resetting, is that we are looking at all of our programs and services and really determining which things we should continue to do and which ones we might need to have they run their course, that kind of thing. And so I think what the recreation staff was really looking at is several things as it relates to the Longmont Triathlon. So, number one, we know it has historical significance in our community. I think everyone who has participated in that loves that event. But we're also looking at, in the past several years, we're looking at the impact on the East Longmont neighborhood, on the variety of privately organized triathlons that are now happening in our community. So we have, including the Longmont Triathlon and 3 other privately organized triathlons, we have 4 of those pretty significant events happening within that East Longmont neighborhood during the course of the summer. So we're concerned about the inundation in the neighborhood. I think, second, the thing that I think council really has asked us to do too is to look at if the private sector is meeting the need, does the public sector need to continue to offer a similar event or program, or should we be looking at, is there a different gap that we can fill as a public sector recreation provider? So that's what our recreation staff was attempting to do. And then just looking at some of the participant numbers have remained fairly static and decreased a little bit over the last 5 years. And so just kind of a combination of those things that the recreation staff was looking at and considering. If the private sector is meeting this need, then should we be doing something differently in meeting other needs for other events or recreation services in our community? So that was the why, and I would say I couldn't answer specifically for Jeff, but I'm sure if we got some direction to reconsider that, it probably is not too late, and so that is the answer to those 2 questions.
Did the flood affect the decision at all? I mean, the lack of resources or money, or was secondary? Did that have any bearing?
It did not have anything to do with that.
Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
A couple of follow-up questions. Thank you, Mayor Coombs. So first of all, have there been complaints about people on the east side?
I would say, I can't tell you specifically, but we do know how much that event, that those triathlons, it's several hours where we're closing down the neighborhoods or limiting access, and so we are just really mindful of that. We do get complaints from from the neighborhood, and we just are trying to be mindful of that's a lot of impact in one area of the community because it also happens to hold the pool and the and Union Reservoir. So.
And then are the other private triathlons beginner triathlons? Are there other beginner triathlons?
What I would say is that, and I think the speaker right before me really talked about that they are similar in terms of the length of the event, but I think the difference is that the Longmont Triathlon, you are swimming in the pool, and so as I think just as the speaker articulated, is that if you are a new triathlete, you maybe aren't a great swimmer, and you're trying to get through the swim to do the running and the biking. Swimming in a pool is a much easier portion than swimming in the open water.
And have we?
I think that's really the beauty of this particular triathlon.
And then the last question I had is, have we explored the opportunity of any of the folks here tonight or other people that the speaker referenced in her remarks, have we thought about giving this triathlon to a private entity so that they could conduct it rather than the city?
I don't believe, Councilman Bagley, that we have any. So it really isn't. It wasn't really an issue of we as the city staff don't have the capacity to do that. I think it really was about, again, I think the impact on the neighborhood, and given that there are several opportunities within this region for those smaller scale triathlons, that maybe we were continuing to be redundant. And I think one of the deciding factors for 2014 is that there is a similar event that will be offered in Boulder at the Boulder Reservoir, actually on the very same date as the Longmont Triathlon, which is the first Sunday in June. So
it's professional level, right?
No, it's a short triathlon.
Okay.
So, but it,
Yeah.
This is a back and forth. Nah. Yeah, sure.
Can we all come up?
Yeah,
sure.
If you guys come up, then it's if you want to do that in lieu of you coming up separately, yeah, it's your turn.
You want me to come up here?
Yeah, once you come up, it's your time. Yeah, but it's her time right now. Go ahead.
Well, I at least wanted to address the last point, that the other triathlon that occurs on the same day, and that is the Boulder 5430 Sprint Triathlon that's owned by World Triathlon Corporation, otherwise known as Ironman. And that is quite a different event. It's an open water swim in Union Reservoir and draws a lot of professional and elite athletes. Beginner triathletes are not likely to go to that event. We talk about this a lot in the triathlon community, and they really are two unique events, because the pool swim at Longmont is beginner friendly, and so there have been other events on the same day in other years and hasn't pulled away from participation in Longmont because the open swim is so different. So I just wanted to address that.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if it'd be more efficient now. I mean, other people that are here to speak about the Longmont Triathlon, I guess we'll just go in order of how the people signed up. Maddie Laborde, Laborde.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Maddie Laborde. I live at 1123 Left Hand Drive in Longmont. I've been a resident of that property for 26 years. I was a victim of the flood that occurred this past year. We received damage from the storm drain, which was 3 doors down from us, as well as the damage from the creek behind our home. The reason I am here is because I needed some answers, or see if I could get some answers. Behind our house, Missouri is there. Our section was the one section of the flood project that was completed along St. Vrain Creek that did not get done because funding went away. As a result of that, I had a 50-foot cottonwood tree that was on city easement property that I had several city people come out and say, you know, it's on the easement, but you own it, so you've got to take care of it. This tree was hanging over my home, and I paid $3,400 to get it cut down because the snow was coming and there were leaves on the trees. The third thing was Kanemoto Park. If you've driven along Missouri, which I'm sure you all have, you have seen the destruction that the creek did. and I'm sure I'm not the first person that's been here to talk about it. But what concerns me are the small children that are playing back there on the eroded properties behind there, because what's happened is the creek is cut into the embankment and the property is just hanging there. I've cautioned several children to get away. There's a part of our tree that fell across the creek that is still there. It concerns me. I see a lot of broken up concrete over at Martin Street, and several of us that have this problem on left-hand drive say, why don't the city take some of this broken up concrete from all the bike paths and at least build a wall or put up some type of barrier to prevent further erosion and that dirt falling on those children and into the creek. The excess concrete is there. I don't know what the plans are for it. My utilities are literally hanging on my privacy fence, what's left of it. My chain link fence is hanging there, which the kids think are fun to hang on and swing over the creek. It's dangerous. Not to mention, like I said, all the erosion down by Motor Park. The pool was hanging over. It's a mess. I have called the city several times. I've seen several of the city people out there with their equipment looking at the damage and, oh, we're going to clear this out. Well, of course you are now after I took my tree down. But my question is, what is the plan of the city engineers? And I know that there are other areas, Lyons, and there's a lot of damage throughout Longmont. What concerns me and scares me to death every night when I watch the news is when they say snowpack is not for the first time in 50 years, and we're going to get more snow, and then we're going to have spring runoff, and pray to God we don't get any rain. We can't handle that. What is the plans of the city manager in the city to take care of that section that is so dangerous right now? Help me.
Mayor Combs and members of council, Dale Rademacher again. So, Motor Park, it's the park that probably got the most damage in the city from the flood. We are nearing the point where we will be going out to bid. We may actually I'm wrong. We've already issued the contract on that. So the contract has been issued, and so you probably noticed that the pool was demoed in the last few days. Mm-hmm. So built the pool, now we've demoed the pool. And it is that same contract that we're going to also use to do the reinforcement and protection of the erosion of the bank. Now, what I need to find out for you is the extent of that. What I do know is we're doing it certainly along the city's public property where the park is. I don't believe the FEMA project will allow us to go into the private property areas, but I can follow up with you on that. Has anybody talked with you about that specific?
No, and Greg Winger, who's a former council member here, his house is one of the ones as well. Okay. 40 feet from the creek, which was about as wide as this prior to the flood, up, which was in an incline, was eaten away, in addition to our 10-foot easement and into our property. We're just wanting to get something to prevent, because of the runoff that came from the side streets right into our properties and cut away at it. It's concave and it's very dangerous. And we want just put the dirt back so it doesn't eat anymore.
And so let me get with you on that. But what I will say is that up and down not just Left-Hand Creek, but also St. Vrain Creek, many private property owners in this very same situation of damage to their property, either in the form of erosion, where the river has changed course and eaten into the property. And unfortunately, we don't have a funding source, either from FEMA or others that I'm aware of, that will come onto that private property. The one that I think we might be able to utilize is the, correct me if I'm wrong, CBG DR money, or the, Harold's going to come down and help me straighten me out, or another one that Harold will tell us.
So in that issue, we obviously have a different set of circumstances as it relates to private property versus public property and the funding sources that we have to deal with, which Dale has talked about. one of the things that we are working on as we talk about the CDBG DR money or disaster money is that the funding for that funding is actually a little more flexible in terms of what we can use that for. Unfortunately, that hasn't come through yet. We're in discussions on the first phase. I can say that the comments that I've made regarding that subject made it in a meeting Friday with Boulder County where we were talking about the overall issues. I also made comments to the governor and our 2 U.S. senators and the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development that's actually why we need the dollars, is for bank stabilization. And we talked about the flow of water, the spring runoff that we're going to have to deal with and the urgency of that. So that's one source. The other source is potentially, Dan just mentioned that the NRCS has options for private property owners. The question's a funding question there. And so what I would like to do is actually have you get with Dan Eman, who's our emergency manager, so he can get the information, because there are distinct programs. Dan's right behind me. There are different programs for private property owners, and so we'll get you with Dan, and we'll work through those issues.
Well, the main thing is the majority of the property that was eaten was city property. It was 40 feet worth. And then the extra 10 feet, of course, our chain link fence is hanging there, but the city easement was like 5 feet beyond that. Right. But the concern that I have is the fact that snowpack is normal now, and we haven't even hit our snowiest months, and heaven forbid we get rain. I lived in that house 18 years ago when we had another huge flood. Missouri was underwater. Never. But because of the damage from the other streets flooding into it, it has changed the course of the creek, and now it is totally eating out of, from the house next to me all the way down to Kanemoto, it's eating into the embankment. So, I mean, just put concrete, something, throw some of the broken rock or something in there just to keep it from eroding where it currently is.
And I do think that's something we can look at. And you're mentioning what I think is a critical issue is if where the damage occurred is public property, then that should be FEMA eligible for reimbursement. So that's a good strategy.
Councilmember Santos?
Thank you, Mayor. And Dale's going to get your information.
Right.
So, but my question is to you two. The email that I sent you guys regarding the meetings that I'd like to see proposed, we're going to have to do another one. So, yeah, in Sophomore Park along that area as well. The meetings that I had, members of council, I'd asked, I got an email from a gentleman that lives in the valley. We need to have those neighborhoods that were greatly affected by the flood, the valley, the Greens, and Champions, and also along your neighborhood as well. An update about what is being fixed, how long it's going to take, especially with the concern that I had that I talked about very early on in December. With the snow and the snowpack and that spring runoff, and the question I had to you, Dale, was how concerned should we be about the spring runoff? And the spring runoff, I think, has a lot of folks, including myself, very concerned. So, do we know how close we are to those meetings being, and at least for the first 3 neighborhoods, how close we are being able to send out some notifications?
Mayor Combs and Councilmember Santos, we are discussing that with John Clark, who heads up the neighborhood and resources area, as well as I think Dan's in those discussions. So we're bringing the team together because it's going to be a meeting that is going to also provide a broad range of information for people, everything from how do you get onto the Everbridge system for emergency notice to what you should be doing yourself as a property owner to prepare for additional potential flooding, and then certainly what the city and the county are doing as well. And so I don't have a schedule or a date for that, but suffice it to say we understand and we absolutely agree that that's a meeting that we need to hold as soon as we can. We're also trying to obviously continuing to get more information so that it's a more productive meeting when we do sit down. But I would say those meetings are likely to be in the March timeframe ahead of the runoff.
Okay. And hopefully those are going to be very neighborhood specific.
Right.
So
Well, I went to all the ones that they had when they were doing all of the construction before.
Right.
But our section didn't get it. So.
Well, again, very neighborhood-specific meetings, so they'll just, again, address more or less your area, so it doesn't include everyone else, but so it'll address those concerns that you have. So,
thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
If I can add to this, for one of the things that we've said to council on several occasions is that when we talk about the priorities, obviously the water was the big one. This is a big one too, and so this is at the top of our list. And essentially, Dale and I move through this discussion once a week at least, if not more, in terms of getting the progress and where we're going to go and issuing the contracts. And as he indicated, there is a contract that's issued on this that we're moving through now, and other contracts that I think are getting ready to go on the St. Brain as well. And we can give you an update now, or we can provide that update to you at the next council meeting.
Next council meeting would be great. Thank you. Councilmember Baldwin.
Actually, thank you, Mayor. Here's what I heard everyone say, though. What I'm hearing is, if I was a private property owner, okay, the big takeaway I just heard, even though there was a lot of soft, good feelings just now, what I'm hearing, and when I walked the city to look at that particular erosion, I know exactly what you're talking about. The city doesn't plan on fixing it, meaning that there's no funds, it wasn't city property. So what they need to do is facilitate private meetings to coordinate private property owners in order to fix those retaining walls. So what I don't want you to do is walk away thinking, oh, city's going to handle it. What I heard, and am I wrong, that the city is not going to be funding or repairing those areas where there's private property erosion.
And I understand the private property part. I'm talking about the 40 feet from the creek up to the private property part that needs to be fixed.
Right. So my question is, where the public property has gone away, do we know what we will do? And now that it's private property, effectively our easement is gone. So my question is, I don't want you to leave us thinking that, well, it's not our problem, and you thinking, well, it's not my problem, and then nothing gets fixed. So just real quick.
So two things. The issue of ownership is the key thing for FEMA. Who owns it? Whose land are you on? And so hearing what she is saying, I think our task is to analyze that and make sure that we haven't overlooked something when we're trying to decide, because the point I'm trying to make, though, is that if it is private property, and there's a huge amount of that, that's really where the difference is. In this particular case, if it is public land that's been eroded, I think it is something we should be talking to FEMA about to see if there isn't an avenue that we can get in there.
I did have a survey done because of the tree issue that I had to pay for, and it did show what was city property and what is private and easement property. So I paid for the survey to be done, and it is there at your disposal.
Right. Well, great, and I'd like to. That would help me too.
That too.
That would help me, and I think we should also have those records, having done work down in the area.
Yeah, and the flood has just been, for those who didn't go through it, it's been a life-changing experience. And like I said, I've lived here 30 years, been in that house over 25. I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would go through this. So any help that we can get, not just myself, but I speak to the other neighbors that have the same issue, and the children of Cannon Meadow Park that play there, we'd appreciate any help we can get.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next up is John Peck.
Hello, my name's Joan, and I'm at Joan Peck, and I'm at 1935 Spruce Avenue. I am here tonight to request that from Mayor Coombs that you revisit the agreement with Synergy Corporation and between Synergy and the City of Longmont, granting an access road to the 3 wells on Longmont City property. And the reason that I'm asking this is at the presentation last Tuesday by staff, they didn't show you the two roads that Synergy already has access to. You've been given a map that is a little more concise and more detailed. If you will look, I'm sorry that I don't have one to display to the public. If you will look at the two green dotted lines, these are the access roads that Synergy already has to not only our wells, but to the wells in Weld County. The dark green line is access that was given to them, granted to them May 7th of 2012. So my question is, why do we need to give them access when they've already got it? According to Councilman Bagley last week, that the state says that we have to give reasonable access to wells. They've already got it. So my question is, why do we need to grant them access, which is the dark orange road here, the one that the agreement is detailing?
We don't have to grant them access, but there's some advantages to granting them access. Number one, if you start with the premise that giving them access or not giving them access has no bearing on whether they're going to drill and frack the wells, then it's like, okay, if we can't stop them from drilling and fracking those wells, what do we gain by giving them access? And, what we gain is, Synergy's agreed not to drill the bottom hole wells in the city. They've agreed to abide by our city regulations. They've agreed not to violate our fracking ban. They've agreed to control the access to their site only coming from the east to avoid most of the city traffic. They've agreed to do the water quality monitoring, which I believe costs them about $10,000 per well. So, one way of thinking is, if we're concerned about our water quality, why wouldn't we want them to be doing all this stuff? So there's some benefits to us working together. I think another big benefit is that it enhances our position with our own gas and oil lawsuit from all city regs. It strengthens that by showing that we're able to work with the gas and oil industry. And so some of some of the positives. So no, we're not required to grant them access, and it's a reciprocal, it's revocable. And so if they don't follow the letter of the law and everything that they promised, that access can be, pulled away immediately, is my understanding. We have the right to revoke that if they break the contract. And does anybody else that voted with me want to say anything? Councilman Bagley?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. We've talked about this.
Yes, we have.
Yes, and so, and I'm glad that you brought it up. And here's why. People are upset. It's a topic that, as we know, it's very vehement and emotional, as well as highly inflammatory. So, keeping that in mind, I always, and we were talking in private, I have a saying, that I always tell my clients. We don't lose if, one, there's no surprises, and two, you do what I say, okay? And you don't have to do what I say because you're not my clients. No, hold on. The thing is that in order to win this lawsuit, the legal standard states, okay, the legal standard states, and I'm talking about...
Can I interrupt for 1 minute?
Go ahead.
Which lawsuit are we talking about? Are we talking about the regulation lawsuit, or are we talking about the lawsuit on the ban?
There are two lawsuits.
Correct.
One saying that our oil and gas regulations as a city is in violation of state law, and two, that Article 16 is a violation of state law. And so, given those two lawsuits, I'm only addressing right now the first one.
Which is
the oil and gas regulations that we passed as a city. Which the primary sticking point there, I think, for the state, I could be wrong, there's probably multiple, and I believe there are multiple, but the key one was keeping fracking out of residential areas. Now, Amendment 300 or Article 16 outlawed fracking in all the city.
Correct.
But let's just focus for a second on what I consider the safety net. Okay? So we are dedicated to defending both lawsuits. And I'm only speaking for one of 7, but my understanding is the legal standard of determining whether or not our oil and gas regulations can or cannot exist as they are currently written is whether or not they can coexist with state regs. And when you look at our local oil and gas ordinances and you look at our state regs, then you have to ask yourself, hey, do they coincide? Even though ours are definitely, they seem more restrictive, they seem prohibitive to the industry. So obviously the state's going to go, yes, they are. However, we have one example in the form of hop operating where we basically came together and said, look, yeah, it might be a pain in the butt, but it coexists with the state regs. Now, if you look at this, again, and there was a letter to the editor, that said that, it's not a big moral victory. It's not a moral victory. Maybe I misspoke. It's a legal victory. Meaning, here we have Synergy, who is once again operating within the law, not necessarily the regs, but now the Article 16 we passed. I mean, they are not fracking underneath the city. They are doing everything that our regulations requested that they do.
But Brian, or Councilman Batley, I'm going to interrupt you
You
here.
can call me Brian. It's informal tonight, Joe.
And you can call me Joe. Our ban and charter amendment already says that it is illegal for them, not them, Synergy, but any operating company with the gas and oil industry to frack under our city. So having them, according to, in their agreement, according to Statement 5A, stating that Synergy shall not use hydraulic fracturing is a moot point. Because they, by law, cannot use hydraulic fracturing, regardless of where that well is put, to frack under our city. Now, I know that Amendment 16, Charter Amendment, Article 16, the wording of it says within our city limits. They cannot frack within our city limits. But the 2 words, hydraulic fracturing or fracking, means under the earth.
Right, absolutely.
So if you say that wording does not cover, because it only says within city limits, the word fracturing means under the earth. So no operating company, until that lawsuit is settled, there's no point in giving them access to those 3 wells, because whether we give them access or not, they cannot fracture those or any wells in Weld County and go under our city by virtue of our charter agreement.
You're correct.
So if we give them access to this road, we are saying you have absolutely no faith that we are going to win our charter lawsuit.
No, I disagree. No, I will absolutely disagree. No.
Okay, explain that, please.
First of all, okay?
Okay.
Just because, and I've learned this the hard way, just because you or me feel something is right or wrong doesn't necessarily mean the majority or even the judiciary is going to agree with us.
Okay.
So they might argue that it belongs up top, below, who knows how it applies. But now we have an agreement with an oil and gas company that says, grantee shall not use hydraulic fracturing within the city limits from any well accessed by this road, admitting that they are going to be following what you fought so hard to create. So what I'm saying is they have agreed. This is a victory. Again, my attitude is, my opinion is, I am not anti-oil and gas. This was about getting industrial activity away from our people, our homes, and our schools. So by doing this, what we're saying is, you're right, you're outside the city of Longmont, you're abiding by not only our regs, our ordinances, but more importantly, Title 16. Go for it. Keep it away from our schools and our homes. So by doing this, we are showing that the tide continues to move with Longmont. 2, we're showing that even the industry, we now have not one but two local operators that we get along with. I mean, this is a fight about local control. Whether you're Sean Conway up in Weld County who wants local control, or Longmont city government and local activists, we all want local control. And we have evidence here just with the simple access of a road, which they are not fracking or violating our law, saying, see, we can handle it. We do not need the heavy hand of the governor or of COGA or the COGCC.
Why are they asking for access to that road when they've already got access?
And the reason is because they wanted to. They asked. I can't control why they'd ask. So, I mean, they asked. Yes. They just asked.
Well, you know what? The bridge is out on Sunset Street, which is our normal access to Boulder. I would love to have access to that and say that only my family gets to use that bridge. Everybody else has to go around and use 3rd Avenue and Hoover.
And
why can't I have that? Because I'm just asking.
Well, first of all, Sunset is a different issue.
I know, but it's the point of access on a road that you don't need access to because there is a workaround.
And the reason I'm answering and seeming passionate is because everybody who's clapping knows where I stand on this issue with oil and gas. Okay? I mean, maybe not. But you should know. Okay? I've made public comments. I've gone to the war with the industry over this. And I'm speaking now because I felt bad for the mayor. Because I belong to the Republican Party, you know, I didn't get the heat for my vote last week that maybe he did, you know. And so the mayor and I met with several people this week, and we explained our position. And just because we disagree on this particular item doesn't mean that we are giving up the lawsuits. Far from it. I will vehemently defend both. And I already shared with you my story about where I shared with my story where I was up with the Weld County folks.
I know.
They told us to give up the lawsuits. My response was, I'll die before I give them up. And they said, that can be arranged.
I kind of look at this as like in a bike race, on different teams. And sometimes you might find yourself ahead of the pack with your arch enemy, and it behooves you to work together for a common goal. And I look at Synergy as being that kind of teammate now that we're working together for the betterment of enhancing our city reg lawsuit and still proving that industry can work to our own city regs and that they'll do a responsible thing. I mean, they've agreed to do, have an infrared camera. They use the best technology. As they're building their site, they scan, every fitting and every tank to make sure it's not leaking. They use closed-loop capture. And then once the site's all put together and checked out, every 3 months they come and scan every single fitting and tank to make sure that nothing's leaking. They're I think really a first-class operator. So we're fortunate that we're not working with a very lower-tiered operator. So.
Well, excuse my distrust of this total industry. Yeah. But even though they say they will be monitoring and hire a third-party monitor, what is the city going to do in order to ensure that the reports that they are giving, are we going to be using their raw data, or are we going to be using the data that they supply through their third party to make sure that they are actually giving us the correct information, that they are not leaking? We've been through this before, which is the whole premise for the petition drive to begin with, was that we were not getting accurate reports. Who in the city staff is going to make sure that the reports that we're getting from Synergy are actually truthful, even though they're a third party? Third parties are paid by the person they work for. The information they give is always to please the person that hired, the industry that hires them. How are we going to handle that?
Well, my understanding is that our last media Brian Schumacher will be the point man, and if there's expertise that we don't have, we'll hire. Do you want to come and speak to that, Harold? Or?
Yeah, Harold, come speak to that.
Yeah. Because I know that too.
So, in regards to the requirements, obviously, we're going to have multiple staff working on this issue just because of different levels of expertise dealing with this. One of the things that we talked about is the requirements on the water sampling to meet our requirements. One of the things that we had a discussion on is doing split sampling. So we actually have someone there when they're doing sampling and taking a sample and comparing those against results. Obviously, looking at various logs. One of the things that this agreement does is they have to give us the logs. And so...
Which is the raw data, or is it the logs is the data that they have come up with from...
So obviously we're going to want the raw data.
Exactly.
To look at it and make sure. And so the other thing that we've talked about with staff is that obviously there may be components of this where we don't have the expertise, and if we need to, then we'll go out and hire geologists or whomever we need that we pay for to verify the data.
And why are we paying for this? What is the benefit, or why isn't Synergy picking up the cost for this? We are not getting anything out of this except for a handshake, to be quite honest, a contract and agreement that they may or may not follow.
Just a couple of quick things. So first issue on the water quality, Joan. I think what our agreement on the revocable permit states is that they will install at their cost a water quality monitoring and testing protocol acceptable to the city. And so that very well could mean that they would potentially use the same firm that we're using on all the other city property. And so in that case, or as Harold said, another technique is that you split the sample of water and you test it in several labs in order to verify those results. So the water quality is one that we actually are getting quite a bit of experience on, having been doing that now for a couple of years on the city's properties. And then on the logs that I think you're referring to, those are on the actual drilling and completion, the fracking logs. And that is an issue that I think it's of our interest, of our community, to know that the fracking hasn't occurred, that in fact they have followed through with what they've committed to, which is holding back on fracking anywhere underneath the city. I think it's a issue of when we get that data, we need to then analyze it. And I think, as Harold said, I think, and I think you even said it earlier, the person who hires the expert is who they work for.
Exactly.
And so I think it may actually, in this case, be in our interest to do it. And I don't think it's a huge cost. So it's a different strategy, though.
Yes, it is.
So to answer the question, I think it's prudent from our perspective to pay for the data to be analyzed to make sure that the individual works for us and that we're verifying that data. Obviously, Dale pointed out you could split the sample. We can just say we want our contractor to do it. There's multiple ways to do it. But at the end of the day, it's trust and verify. And the verify is the big piece of the puzzle. And that's what I can say is that we're committed to do. And it's a revocable easement or revocable access. And if they don't do what they said they're going to do, we can revoke it. And I will say, from my perspective, that if we see that they're not doing what they're saying they're going to do, I will be the first one here in front of the council saying they're not doing what they're saying they're going to do. And we need to revoke this. And that's why it is revocable.
Okay. I still am requesting that you revisit this next week, because even though you're working for the regulations, if you remember, the total petition drive to get this issue on the ballot and vote on it was because we didn't like your regs. I know you had a 750-foot setback, but that still allowed fracking under our city since they can frack 2 miles. And the whole point, we asked for 1,000-foot setbacks, which would have kept it out of our city, totally. And that's why we did the petition drive for the ban, because you only came up with 750 feet. That was one of the reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Edward Rockman. Yes. Councilmember, oh, excuse me, Councilmember Christensen.
Okay, I'd like to get back to the road, because obviously we're not going to, they already are fracking, and it doesn't matter whether we do this or not. But the issue here is the road. Now, when we were given our council packets a week ahead of time, or a few days ahead of time, actually, we had only the petition and we had the legal contract. It was not until just before we sat down, or just when we sat down, that we were given an additional packet with some more information, including we
got the current access road information.
Yes, we just got another packet
But
tonight.
we didn't get the granted access road, was not in it.
Well, we got another packet, but we had no time to read that. And then we voted on that without having actually any time at all to read that. And now I was told by you that the form that they filled out was actually wrong, that the mineral rights owner was not the same as the property rights owner. And now we have yet another packet tonight saying, oh, well, we forgot to tell you that actually they do have access, and there's another map. And this map shows that they already do have two roads. I'm wondering why we are doing this. They have all the access that they need. And when something doesn't make sense and it's done in a rush like this, I can't agree to it because it doesn't make sense. And it's not an emotional issue. It doesn't make sense. They're asking for a 20-year agreement for something that they claim will take 3 months to frack. And here in the legal agreement, it says that the grantor, that would be the city of Longmont, has granted, sold, and conveyed, and by this agreement does grant, sell, convey, and confirm to the grantee its successors and assigns. And it furthermore says that they can transfer this to other people. This is all, I don't understand why we're agreeing to this. That's why I didn't agree with it, because we are not obliged to convey, the use of city property to anyone, frankly. This road doesn't make sense to me. So.
All right, Edna.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, before that,
I wonder, Edna, if you could accommodate someone who's carpooling with a 1-year-old child that spoke first tonight. Move her up one spot. If you're willing to accommodate, is that okay?
Okay, sure. And who's that?
Dorothy.
Dorothy Crone. Okay.
Greetings, members of the council, mayor. I live at 322 Collier. I'm Dorothy Cohn. I've owned that place for 19 years now, and the past 3 years of living next to a drug house have been horrendous. I've received phone calls from neighbors when people have basically chased her because she's asked them to stop vandalizing her fence. People have come into her yard and picked her peaches, plums. They've gone over top of my 7-foot chain-link dog fence to pick all the apples off of my tree in the past 3 years. You find people in your yard. I got a phone call from my daughter. I was at work. There's a topless woman in the yard who is refusing to leave. The cops were called. Of course, the woman left before the cops got there, and this is a story that goes on and on and on. I received phone calls at 6 a.m. from people around the block going, hey, I just walked outside. There's 2 warm coffee cups on my porch. My car's open, and all of my kendo equipment is out strewn along on top of the car. They were actively there trying to break in, and had then had the continence to come back and try and retrieve the bicycle that they left there along with their coffee cups. I also found that as I walked out of my house about 10 minutes later, that my side gate, which is never opened, was open, and stuff in my yard was being moved around also. 322 Collier, that's my address, 330 Collier, which has become a drug addict place, methamphetamine, has been raided 3 times in those 3 years. Once Operation Cowboy, and Merce Gonzalez was arrested at that point, but was out within 3 months and back at that address. I've watched people follow him, running past him when he goes on his bike, saying, hey man, you got some? I see people pull up all the time, jump out of their car and go, oh, goody, goody, I'm going to get some tonight. People in and out of that house at all times, people walking up to my house, knocking on the door, going, oh, this isn't the right house, is it? And you kind of point them up to the other house where they really want to go. I find them in the mulch at my rose bushes. And it didn't occur to me until I happened to come home at the time the cops had 2 of them pulled over, and they started to do a search that they found the little packet of meth, and it was hidden in the mulch. And that's why all the people have been stopping at my rose bushes, muddling through the mulch, because they know that's where the stash is being held. I would really appreciate it if sentencing for some of these people who can honestly, within, well, Saturday, tell a neighbor of mine that there's nothing the police can do. You can't get rid of us because we're here and we're going to stay. These are the meth heads. We recognize them. We know their faces. They hang around in packs of 5 young men whom I'm sure could dig a ditch someplace, but they'd rather spend their time doing drugs. If their sentencing could become much more stringent, make it very clear to them. I don't know if there's somebody in the state above you that can go for sentencing guidelines. Meth is a problem. It's turned out what was a wonderful neighborhood into a place. I go out in my backyard this summer and there's somebody exchanging drugs on my property. I said, excuse me, and they went, oh, sorry, and left right away. But they're not the ones cleaning up the TV they stole from somebody's house and broken, and I'll probably have to pay to have all of that recycled someplace. I would just appreciate having this really looked into and get those people out of the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Edna. Pardon? Okay, yeah, Ed Blackman, go ahead. You want to?
We didn't get to answer it the first time this was brought up, but what I can say is that we are moving forward with a nuisance abatement on that home, and so obviously we're putting together what we need to, and then it goes before a judge, and the judge ultimately decides whether or not one of the outcomes is that we can get possession of the property. So what I can say is we are pushing that nuisance abatement forward as a result of the last raid that occurred by the SWAT team at that location. I knew that was a question that you wanted us to respond with. We weren't participating in the conversations then, but I wanted to now say that we are pursuing that with the nuisance abatement, and it will be in the judicial system.
Thank you. Thank you. Next,
Mayor,
Edna?
can I also make a quick comment? Also, before you guys walk out, the next Coffee with Council is going to be at the Hour Center. So they are welcome to come just down the street and talk to myself, and I think Councilmember Christensen. Are you the 26th of January? Oh, is it Bonnie? You and I. Yeah, you and I will be there. So.
I thought it was a 3:30 call.
Go ahead, Edna.
My name is Edna Lohman. I live at 1314 Grant Street, Longmont, Colorado, and I've been a full-time resident since 2009. I'm still learning about what you do and what the city's like, and I do say that I like it very much here and hope that it continues to be the place that I've enjoyed so far. I was surprised today to hear from Joan about the situation with granting access to the wells by Union Reservoir. I've been to Union Reservoir several times. I think it's a wonderful public resource. It's the only public camping in the city. Many people swim there. People play with their dogs there. People that I know kayak there and look at birds there. It's really wonderful, and I read it's unique because it actually is partially spring-fed. And I imagine that in the future it could be very important to the water supply of the city. So I'm just really kind of shocked, I have to say, that there would be access right next to this wonderful resource for fracking. And I didn't understand because of the ban that was passed, like how this could be. So I don't follow everything you said, Mr. Bagley, about the legal things, but it seems to me that there's a possibility of big public loss from having more fracking development by the lake. Water pollution, air pollution, traffic. It's not that far from housing. I have friends that live over there. So, and we know that there have been studies of, air pollution showing that it's there in our air now, that they can tell the fracking part of the air pollution apart from car pollution. And just a little story, I was at the Y last week and I was talking to someone who owns a lot of agricultural land that they lease for fracking. And he says he's had lots of spills on his land, and all they do is dig up the soil and cart it away. Well, do we want them to do that to our lake? I mean, that's a very important public resource, and often these kinds of pollution things settle in the sediment and they don't go away. We know that. We've heard lots of stories about that. So it seems to me there's a potential for very big loss for having development on the shores of this lake, and the benefit that you say of having better relations with industry, that doesn't seem to me to be worth it to destroy this public resource. I'm sure we could have better relations in other ways than granting this. So I hope that you will reconsider this very seriously. Thank you.
Councilmember Bagley? Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Edna, thank you for coming. I guess my history, the way I look at the current lawsuits, is probably a little different than most. I had a front row seat. I was in a room with the governor's head of natural resources, Mike King, a handful of the commissioners from the COGCC, handpicked industry, oil and gas attorneys and experts who are coming together to objectively talk about, new rules and regulations to hopefully quiet the northern Front Range of Colorado. And the conversation, which I believe was on public record, went along the lines of, right now, Longmont is considering oil and gas regs. And they scoffed and they said, good luck. And at which point I predicted accurately, I said, what's going to happen is we're going to pass these. And they scoffed. The first reading, we didn't pass them. I believe that we were at fault. As a council, we didn't pass.
On first reading and second reading.
They didn't pass. Okay? Yeah. And so then as a result, rightfully so, solid members of our community came forward and started a petition drive, and they got Amendment 300, which became Article 16 in our city charter. They started that drive. After they started it, we came back and passed the regs. And so at every step along the way, when I was talking with Mike King in the Oil and Gas Task Force, I said, this is what's coming. We're going to pass our regs, and if you give us trouble, then you're going to get citizens taking it into their own hands, and then they're going to ban fracking in our city, and then you're going to have other cities following suit. And you've seen it in Fort Collins, you've seen it in Broomfield, you've seen it in all these other cities. Lafayette. So the landscape is changing, and so the governor, I believe, in the very beginning, didn't understand. And now he's starting to see. So keeping that in mind, if you look at the road access, again, thinking in terms of legal arguments, they're actually going to be drilling, so if you can picture a vertical, yes, vertical, not horizontal, a vertical line, okay? The well is over here in Firestone. I have several, you were right. I don't want fracking around Union Reservoir. but it's in Firestone. There's nothing we can do to stop that fracking. As a matter of fact, Chad Auer, the mayor, who I love to death as a friend, buddy, I love Mayor Auer. But he encouraged, at least according to the paper apparently, he encouraged fracking the bottom well hole to go under Longmont. Had Synergy said, fine, we'll do that, we would have been in another lawsuit. I'm not averse to lawsuits, okay? It's just that we can all count together how many lawsuits the local municipalities won against the state. Count with me, ready? Huh. Oh, wait, let's do it again, because I missed it. Huh. I mean, so we can either start fighting here, or we can fight the battle we've already picked. So keeping in mind that vertical line, that property line that says this is city, this is not, Firestone, Longmont, the well is going to enter in Firestone, snake through Longmont, and then bottom well in Firestone. So what they're doing, they will not correct. I understand what everyone's saying. I understand. But what I'm saying is they have agreed not to frack under the city of Longmont. You have got, and you might disagree. I'm only speaking one of seven. But I'm driving the lane. Me personally, I think we need to drive the lane and hit the shot. I don't want to pass back. The lane's clear. Let's win this lawsuit. And by continuing to fight over this, which is a very minor issue, it could jeopardize everything. That is my opinion. And you might disagree. You might disagree. And I've told you that is my feeling on it. Now, and again, that doesn't mean we're not. And so anyway, basically what it goes back to is I understand your concerns about Union Reservoir.
You can handle these issues on polluting, and the most prominent thing are surface spills. So why haven't we learned upgraded and downgraded water monitoring on these wells? I mean, that's what's going to protect Union Reservoir is doing this. And the way we do that is by giving them road access. I mean, that's one of the major benefits to us.
So will the road access connect to any wells? I mean, I assume that they will be accessing the wells through the road access.
I guess I'm not quite understanding your question.
What is the road going to do? I mean, it's going to give them access.
It gives them a shorter access path to their well path.
So, and the wells are going to be drilling, and there's going to be pollution. So, it seems to me having the road access is going to increase the chance of pollution.
No, it's going to decrease the chance of pollution because it allows us to monitor. Those wells are going to be drilled and fracked, whether we give them that access, because they got two other access roads they could use. So.
Well, I consider.
She's everything speaking, so you get your turn and you want to come up and speak.
Well, thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I think we need to take let's take a 10-minute break. We've been going actually since about 5:30 this afternoon. again. Everybody, please take your seats. Sean Millett is first person up. Oh, excuse me. Okay, I guess Sean Milano's already spoken, so now it's Rob Zabricki. Is there a Rob Zabricki?
Good evening. My name is Rob Zabrecki. I live at 718 Cameron Lane, and I'm here to speak in support of the Longmont Triathlon. Last year was my first triathlon I had ever done. I am not a triathlete. I work with triathletes as a bike mechanic, but I've never done a triathlon, so I thought this is a perfect event for me. I'm not a swimmer. I swim like a brick, and the pool was what attracted me. And no other races in the area have a pool swim. I also worked a couple years for World Triathlon Corporation, so I've gone around the entire country seeing the biggest triathlons, and there's no way you're going to get me doing an open water swim. So I thought, okay, this is the one. So I had a great time, great experience. It was a very family-oriented type event. You saw a lot of moms and dads out there. All the races that I've worked for WTC, it's a totally different mindset. Those people are type A personalities. They're out to kill each other, and it's not the same thing. So they're not attracting the same clientele. It's a different mentality. It's way more laid back. So I don't think there's necessarily to say that one event that's run by a local private company is the same as the Longmont one. They're not. They're completely different. So when I saw that, I've told friends, this is your first time. This is the one you want to do. And I had friends that came to town for it, and then to see it canceled, it was just, it was a real disappointment. I couldn't understand why, and then, trying to figure it out. So anything that, you guys can do to try to save the event, I think it's important. It's important for the city. I think it's important for the triathlon community in general. And, yeah, anything you guys can do. So, is it?
James Kinworthy.
James Kenworthy, 107 Caribou Place. People keep saying how long they've been in Longmont. I think they've been here about 30 years. And as you might guess, I'm here to talk about the easement out at Union Reservoir. And what I want to talk about is the lease. There's another 20-year lease that the city signed, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 6 or 8 years, and that's about the selling water. And maybe when that lease was signed, it made sense. But it doesn't make sense anymore because a lot of things have changed. The city is selling the water for almost nothing, and it's going for fracking. So, here's my point. Things are changing a lot faster than they did 6 or 8 years ago. And I want to swear, but I'm not going to. What are they going to do with that access road in 20 years? What are they going to be doing with that well in 20 years? Well, there are several things they could be doing. They could be coming back and injecting water in that well. So, if it's you guys voted on this issue without having all the facts. So at least cut the lease down to 5 years. Technology is moving along, and you don't know what's going to be happening in 20 years, and I don't either. But looking at that lease with the water, the city's taking it into shorts and getting nothing. So at the very least, cut that lease down to a shorter time. And I want to repeat what I said. You guys voted on this without all the information. So it would behoove you to take another look at it. And I understand about the precedents, I think. You have a document signed by Synergy that says they will follow the city's
Regulations and Article 16.
the Article 16, yeah. Hold it. I need to look at my voluminous notes. The problem is, County Road 26 is just a gravel road. And there's going to be all that truck traffic out there, and it's going to impact people out there at the reservoir. When the first two people came up, they told their personal stories, and you guys were all ears. And the solution seems fairly simple. But when an issue comes up that affects a lot of people, things get muddied. And it's a lot more complicated, and I understand that. But I'd just take another look at this. At least cut that lease down. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Tom Cornwell?
Tom Cornwell, 1014 Atwood Street, Longmont, Colorado. I guess you can probably guess why I'm here. 3 years ago, I did my first triathlon, something I thought I'd never do in my life. And I did it at this triathlon right here. And it means something. I can get it if someone's never done a triathlon, that it wouldn't mean something to them. But every athlete who's ever done this triathlon, I guarantee you, it means something to them. It means something. And it's not, I would not be doing triathlon today had it not been for this triathlon. Not any other one. You're going to hear this probably over and over again. It's a great jumping off point for the sport. So for 3 reasons. One, which has already been mentioned, it's not an open water swim. That's the first one, okay? Second, in my case, it's affordable. I can afford to do the race. That comparison cannot be made to any other race that they're talking about. And third, to the point of it being really family-oriented and more laid back, try to imagine that the first time I ever did it, I'm thinking, gosh, I got to get out of this pool and get going. And I jump out of the pool and I run around the corner, and here's these 2 women just walking along, smiling at each other. Wasn't that swim great? They're just walking over to their bikes. I did the San Diego, the Tri-Rock San Diego that same summer, and I guarantee you there's no one walking there. Because as a matter of fact, someone knocked me on the ground trying to get to their bike. So that's just a little different, I think. It's just a little different. And I think that it's important to our community to keep it. I don't want to see it taken over by somebody private. It belongs to our city. It belongs in Longmont, Colorado. And to Longmont, Colorado for
33 years.
If we have it our way, 34 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Lorenzetti? Okay. Go ahead, Councilmember Bagley.
I guess for me, as I'm sitting here, again, I'm not ever going to run a triathlon, ever, okay?
I'll get you out there, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess, but here's my thought. If we don't do it, we've done this 33 years consecutively. If we don't do it this year, it won't be 34. and it's the longest triathlon in the state. It does sound like it is good marketing. So I think it would be a good idea to do it this year, and then think about what we're going to do next year and look for solutions. So I would move that we actually instruct staff to do.
We can't make any decisions tonight.
We can't? Is that against charter, Eugene?
No.
We can instruct staff. We do it all the time at study sessions.
Councilmember Santos?
It'd be probably better to do it at a regular session. Plus, we do get a lot of, and if we're going to do this, I would entertain that, but I would look at alternate routes instead of the east side of the town, because we get a lot of complaints on the east side of town. I live on the east side of town, and I hear it all the time.
But it has to start and end at the pool, so it's hard to not be at these.
There are other routes that can be addressed, but it would probably be better to do this at a regular session.
Okay. Councilmember Begley?
I guess I will be making, just so you can think about it, I will be making that motion next regular session.
And I'll second it.
But not
yeah.
You will second.
Yeah. Andrew Howell?
You gotta get 4 votes. You need 4 votes.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. My name is Andrew Howell. I live at 208 Homestead Parkway here in Longmont. And thank you for making that motion, or predicting that we're going to be making the motion in the future. Thank you for that. I'm here actually speaking on behalf of many people, not just myself. I do have a stack of papers of letters I received. My cell phone has continued to ring during this meeting of people continuing to send me letters. For you guys, you're so lucky. I printed off a stack of them for each of you so you can read through them in your leisure time. I know you have a lot of that. 11 people attended yesterday's Park and Rec's Advisory Board meeting to discuss, I use the word protest, the decision by the city to end the Longmont Triathlon. Some of those people are reflected in these papers, and other ones couldn't even make it to that meeting, but still felt the need to write a letter. As you know, hopefully you remember many months ago, members of this community clearly stated to City Council that the swimmers and triathletes in the city need more pool space for training, for competition. The City Council very wisely requested a feasibility study to investigate adding more competitive swimming in this city. And now we've learned that the Recreation Department's response was to cancel the winter sprinter meet by the master swim team, and then the Longmont Triathlon. So I'm not sure if there was miscommunication by that huge group of people that showed up that we want additional resources for doing the sports we enjoy. And the reason we enjoy doing the sports is because this Recreation Department has done such a wonderful job in the past. They get people involved. We like to run. We like to do triathlons, with the exception of Brian. So, you know, we asked for, you know, additional resources to accommodate that load. We did not ask, I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to go through my memory here, we didn't say let's cancel events that are really popular, use our facilities, bring our community together, like the Longmont Triathlon. As you know, we lost a lot this year. If you like to run, hope you don't like doing it on the Greenway. It's not there. You like to bicycle? I like to go for maybe a 30 to 40 mile bike ride. Good luck trying to do that when you can go about 15 miles before you hit a road that's been washed out. It's very difficult in this community. And now we're saying, hey, in addition to that, let's take away an event that makes money, is popular, has been running for 33 years, and as a correction, is not just the longest running in Colorado. According to the website of the city, it is the longest running triathlon in the continental U.S. So, continuously running. Thank you.
That's because Longmont doesn't take breaks.
here we are. We've got this gem, and instead of advertising this, instead of saying this is why you believe in Longmont, this is why you should live here, instead we're saying, you know what, Boulder's got one. You go over there. You know what? I don't belong in Boulder. If I did, I wouldn't live here. I wouldn't be sitting in this meeting. I'd be over there talking with those guys. I don't want to compete in Boulder, and there's a whole stack of letters here for you. People don't want to compete. I can't even swim. I'm a decent swimmer. I can't swim as fast as people in there. I certainly can't keep up with them on a road course, whether it's on a bicycle or running, but especially running, actually. So, you know, as many people have stated here, this is a pool-based triathlon. There are some people who will not do an open water swim. I'm a great swimmer. I've never done an open water swim in my life. Personally, I don't really like cold water. Maybe one of these days I'm going to get brave enough and get out there in a reservoir and do that. But, you know, there would be a lot of people that wouldn't swim with me. My in-laws, my father-in-law had to leave earlier. My mother-in-law, a letter in here from her as well. Not very strong swimmers, but they were motivated. They came out and they did the triathlon. Also motivating my children. My kid is in first grade. He would very much love to do the Longmont Triathlon. Not because he wants to be an Olympic athlete, like one of the children earlier today. He wants to do it because he saw his dad do it. He saw his mom do it. He saw his grandparents do it. So he'd like to do it. Oh, that's right, you don't get to, because we decided we're going to cancel something that somehow makes money. There aren't too many things that a city does that actually generate revenue, other than collect taxes, of course. So when you actually get one, and the argument from the Recreation Department is we'd like to offer more services, I would think that if you want to offer more services, you would actually make revenue and use that money to pay for new services. So on behalf of everyone here, it seems like it fits the mission statement. It makes revenue, so I guess I'm a little confused. Thank you.
Thank you for your input, Andrew. Next up is Shelley Johnson.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Councilman and Mayor. I came to speak to you tonight about the Longmont Triathlon and Kids Triathlon. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm a recreational triathlete. And I'm a Longmont resident. I live at 1512 Goshawk Drive. My name is Shelley Johnson. I'm fortunate to live in a community of people who share my interests. And if you're looking at the infographic, you can get to know a little bit more about people that you're hearing from tonight. I'm here to speak on behalf of a lot of people who've never done this race, myself included. But health professionals like me are able to see firsthand the devastating impact that the American obesity crisis is having on public health. And Colorado may be the leanest state for adults, thank you. But prior to 2011, we were the only state with an obesity rate below 20%. And Colorado lost that point of distinction. Furthermore, 23% of Colorado children are overweight or obese, and the rate of childhood obesity in our state is rising at the second fastest rate of increase in the nation. If trends continue, only 33% of Colorado adults will be a healthy weight by 2020. Local initiatives designed to address our weight problems are still ramping up. For example, Live Well Colorado's Longmont site does not yet have a calendar of fitness activities for the community to get involved in, leaving the Parks and Rec Department to come up with programs to address it. Why should we take away a good opportunity when a 33-year-old infrastructure for an event that entices people to get active already exists? Physical activity expert and researcher with the University of New Mexico, Dr. Len Kravitz, noted in a scientific article he wrote about motivating inactive people to exercise that watching others exercise also helps motivate people to continue with their own exercise plan. The Longmont Triathlon is an attractive event for people who are looking for a sport that will help them get and stay motivated to exercise. You've heard already from some beginners tonight, and they had to start somewhere, and this is a really good place for them to start. For those of you non-triathletes, I know you probably are learning quite a bit about the venue and how important it is. Centennial Pool being an excellent choice for a beginner. We've learned too over time here, looking at the other options for people who need a beginner type of a venue, that they have to go all the way to Golden or Steamboat Springs to get a similar experience. That's kind of far. It's not very a local feel for the people who really need that community. Research shows that adults aspire to swim more than any other fitness activity, yet according to the CDC, 37% of American adults cannot swim the length of a pool. And every day, about 10 people die from drowning. And you may not even realize that a majority of the people who suffer from drowning deaths are adults, and more than a third of recreational drownings occur in natural water settings like our reservoirs. The Longmont Triathlon introduces members of our community to Centennial Pool if they've never been there, especially family and friends who are coming to the race to cheer on the athletes who are participating. And they might be inspired to try a triathlon. They might be inspired to learn how to swim. The sport of triathlon is growing and thriving. You've heard about that tonight too. But the better news is that people are sticking around and doing more events. And I think you already know there's 3 other events happening at Union Reservoir this summer. You'll find that triathletes are tremendous ambassadors for their communities. We like to train with other people inside our community and outside of our community. We like to share tips and tricks, and we like to talk about the various places we like to train. That includes swimming in Union Reservoir, it includes biking on our city streets, and it includes running in our paths. So we get to share all the wonderful assets that we have here in Longmont with people who live here who maybe don't have the experience that we have. And we love getting people involved no matter their ability level. So it seems to me there's a lot of reasons to keep this thing going. I'm not standing here selfishly asking to save this thing from my personal race schedule. But I can say that I'm a little frustrated that the state of Colorado has spent more than $1.6 billion treating diseases tied to obesity. And if there's a solution that we can help come up with that seems to already be kind of working, I'd like to see it stay. I'm concerned for the health and well-being of Longmont and my neighbors, and I want to see more of them get moving and try a triathlon. I think that this particular race is the catalyst for the positive impact on public health, and I want to see it in Longmont this summer.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thanks.
Nicole Weiss.
My name's Nicole Weiss, and I live at 942 Atwood Street, Longmont, 80501. I'm here also to talk about the triathlon. Last year was my first triathlon also, and I asked several people who have done triathlons for quite some time a recommendation, and everybody hands down said the Longmont Triathlon is a great place to start. The pool for me was a big seller. I don't want to be in water over my head. The Centennial Pool is a great place for that because no part of that lane is over my head. But also the other part about that is the atmosphere at the race also. I have done other races, not a triathlon, but 5Ks and a duathlon. But the atmosphere at the Longmont one is completely different. It is very family oriented. I attended a lot of the classes here in the community to get myself ready for that race. And knew people out there that were giving me high fives, or I just swam in a lane next to them for several weeks. We didn't exchange names, but we knew each other's faces and could congratulate them along our route during the race also. And to say some other things about that, but the classes that I took also helped the community. I took a lot of classes at Breakaway Cycle here in Longmont off of Main Street with Allison. At the rec center, utilizing the pool, buying a bike for the race here. So all of that is also business that goes into getting ready for a race. And to counter what she just said, I clocked all my minutes that I used or did to work out for the race. I had 5,000 minutes by the time it came to me getting ready and done for the race, between swimming, biking, and running. So I do think it promotes a lot of good things. I was very, very saddened to see that it was not going to take place this year. My daughter and I volunteered at the kids triathlon. She wasn't old enough to participate at the time. She asked me where I was going tonight, and I said, well, they're going to cancel the race, and she asked why, and I said, I have no idea. So I hope you take that in consideration next week at your vote. Do we get to speak at that?
Sure. Yeah, it was probably
I was wondering. I have no idea.
Yeah, not 5.
I do have one question. If there's so much concern about the impact on the east side of Longmont, why is this the only race that's on the chopping block for consideration? Like, why aren't any of the other races being asked not to be in Longmont if this is a city-ran one?
Well, I could probably speak a little bit to that. You know, unfortunately, when you have a beginner triathlon and you have heated into lanes, it runs a long time. It's not like a mass
It
start.
was the first wave, so I know.
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of goes for like a half a day. So it is a hard triathlon to put on when you're closing down, you know, neighborhoods for a half a day. So I understand that. But that's the beauty of it, too, is that you are in the heat. So, you know, it's not like a massive swim start at a reservoir where 1,500 people are hitting the water all at once and that kind of thing. So.
Which would terrify me. 1,500 people running out to the water for you to finish.
Yeah.
That's
Imagine a Class A personalities in Kona. It's like a slugfest. I mean, it's Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think that's an only reason why this was looked at. When the other triathlons are going on, and when neighbors cannot leave their streets, and I get phone calls that whoever is monitoring the streets, I can't leave my house for hours, that's a problem. And so then I have to call dispatch and say, what is going on? Oh, and there's signs that are out there that say there's a triathlon going on this weekend, whether it's this one or the other 3 that are going on. We need to be very cognizant of the residents that live on that side of town as well. I just moved from one side of Mountain View to the other side of Mountain View, to the south side. So where this route now goes, I'm right there. So I'm going to have to be very cautious and know when those triathlons are going on. If I'm not participating, dragged into participating, try to drag Councilmember Bagley into one. Or maybe the mayor will just drag Councilmember Bagley into one. But it's when those triathlons are going on, man, I don't know about the others, but my phone is blowing up constantly from residents saying, I can't leave my house. This is not right. So we need to be very cautious and see if there's another route. But I don't think that was the only reason. As Karen Roney stipulated, attendance has not been what it has been in the past. So perhaps if this vote goes through and we have a 34th, that may be something for the triathletes to boost for the 34th.
Councilman Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. The traffic thing is a serious issue for the citizens, but it's not just these type of events. The turkey trot shuts down portions of Longmont for half a day also.
And I can say Longmont has numerous parades that block off Main Street.
So at the end of the day, I think it's something that maybe some different planning could alleviate some of that stress on the local communities. In fact, I've talked to city staff about the turkey trot and what we can do next year to facilitate a better traffic flow during the actual race. So, but it is a serious concern of residents when they can't leave their house. So, not an excuse.
You can almost leave your house, but sometimes it might have to be on foot. Run.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming out and speaking, Nicole. Next up is Jeff Thompson, who's taken Teresa Foster's place.
Do I have to give my address?
Yes.
1616 Summer Street.
Okay.
It's already on record. I thought this was a less formal.
I just decided to come down here because of an email I got this afternoon, and I didn't get to do my usual fact gathering, and maybe somebody on the city council can help me. We've been talking a lot about this access road for Synergy. Does anybody on the council know whether that access road is, we know it's on city-owned property. Is it on open space? Because I can't figure out why we would own that property if we didn't buy it for open space.
Does Harold know?
It's on water utility property.
Okay.
Well, you see, I made my point just in the fact that nobody in the city council checked that, and because I think that at this point the open space program has no integrity because of the way the city council has been dealing with it. I wrote you, Mayor Coombs, and Councilmember Levison an email back on September 18th of 2012 asking for your response about this open space issue, and I'm still waiting for a response. In that email I say, under Longmont Municipal Code section 4.04.130J, I hope somebody writes that down so you can check this out.
Say that again.
4.04.130 in parentheses J. Under that code section, land acquired with open space funds can only be used for the purposes set forth in Longmont Municipal Code section 4.04.130 in parentheses I. 4.04.130I. Oil and gas operations is not one of the purposes set forth in that section. And what I pointed out is that in the master agreement that the City Council back in 2012 agreed to with top operating with no notice, that was when I got into trouble with the council members because I said you were operating like a thug because there was no notice given to the public. Somehow Kay Fissinger found out that you were going to vote on that from a city staff member, and I found out from her that afternoon. And the city council communication didn't say anything about the fact that it granted to top operating several drilling sites on open space land, which the council clearly did not have power to do. And the staff basically suckered you into it, like they suckered you into the utility rate hike that I was complaining about a couple months ago, by not telling you the whole picture. They basically deceived you by not telling you the whole picture. And on this, all the information that was made available to the council and to the public in writing, in public, didn't say whether any of those parcels of land where we were granting drilling sites to top operating were open space. So, and what we did in that agreement, it was extremely valuable to top operating because now top operating has a place to drill under Union Reservoir. That's what they were after all along. And things that Councilmember Bagley was saying way back in 2012, I think that's kind of what he's been after all along too. But it's illegal. And the reason this is my first point, Mayor, would you agree to look into this? I mean, we agreed that we would pay taxes on retail purchases to buy land for open space with the agreement that you would not use it for drilling sites. So I'm just asking, would you agree that you'll do a little truth and reconciliation on the open space program and check out what I'm saying? That was point one. Point two, I don't really think the city is going to do its best to uphold either the charter amendment or its own fracking regulations. If you just let me, this is something else I've asked you to address in emails 2 years ago now, and I haven't gotten a response from either you or Councilmember Levison on this. I'm simply asking that I would like to, all the briefs and motions and pleadings in these lawsuits, I think they've been consolidated into one possibly. Well, anyway, they are all available to all the parties in PDF, digital format, and it would be so easy for the city just to put it up on the city website so that we can see all these briefs and pleadings. Tonight, Councilmember Bagley was coming up with a theory that has absolutely no basis in law. Councilmember Bagley was saying that if we can show that our regulations can coexist with the regulations of the Oil and Gas Conservation Commission, then our regulations will be upheld by the law. And there's, in the case law, there's absolutely no basis for that. If you read the decisions of the Supreme Court, the opinions of the Supreme Court, there is no doubt but what under those opinions, both the fracking ban and the regulations that the City Council passed don't stand up. They'll both be stricken down unless our attorneys challenge the two groundwork cases. I can never remember one, maybe Councilmember Bagley. One was Voss versus Lundvall. That was the Greeley case that struck down Greeley's ban. And then there was another one. It was Board of County Commissioners versus somebody. What was that case? Have you read it?
Are we starting the interaction now, Jeff?
I just asked a question, yeah.
I've read all the case law, yes.
Well, then you know that, and you had all these backroom meetings with our attorneys on this. So you know why, you know what the purpose of spacing regulations are, spacing orders. Mm-hmm. And you know why in Voss versus Lundvall, the court explained very clearly that the city cannot get involved in saying where the location of a well is, which is exactly what we did in our regulation ordinance. Because it starts right out when it talks about wells in residential areas. It just specifically says you can't have wells talked about locating wells in residential areas. But the reason I'm bringing all that up is that citizens have, I think, we're paying for all of this legal expense with our tax dollars. Don't we have a right to see the briefs and the various motions that are being filed by all the parties that won't cost the city a cent? And 2 years ago I asked Eugene May to do that, and he refused to do it.
Can't you request Open Record Act? I
did. And this was really insulting. What he said is that I could come to his, all the Open Record Act says, he played, a really small-minded little lawyer's game and said, I could come down and inspect the records at his offices, and then if I wanted copies at my expense, I could make copies, which is ridiculous because they're all PDF documents, and you can just make them available to everybody that wants them without it won't cost the city a cent to do that. When he said that was just, he was intending to insult me when he said that.
Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Jeff, hi, how are you? First of all, okay, I like the interaction because a lot of times you'll come down and you'll make comments. You're very well informed, very intelligent. I always appreciate what you have to say. Sometimes I want to speak back, and so Sweet. So, first of all, tonight it was a little disingenuous because in the beginning, I said water utility land. I know the mayor said water utility land. I know Gabe said, we all said water utilities. Before our mics went on, you knew that we said that it wasn't open space.
No,
it
I
was
didn't
water
hear that.
utilities. Okay?
I didn't hear that.
Well, all I'm saying is that, so what's the difference? Hold on. I sat quiet for 5 minutes, which is very rare for me, Jeff, very rare. And so the other thing is that you don't know me. You've never sat down and broken bread with me. You don't know what my intentions are. I would challenge you to point to one instance where I have done anything contrary to backing up, except wanting to fight and win these lawsuits. I mean, you can sit here. What Voss said was we cannot as a city say no oil and gas activity within our city boundaries. That's it. Now, Koga comes back and says, you know what? Banning fracking's the same thing. That's what the lawsuit's about. However, our regs, and I pointed this out, and I'm going to make sure I get this on the record, our oil and gas regulations, I believe it's 99.7% of all area within the city of Longmont is covered by our oil and gas regs, which means that if we win that, and heaven forbid, Article 16 fails, we're still covered. Now, just because I say that doesn't mean necessarily I'm not fighting tooth and nail for both lawsuits. Because as an attorney, as you know, because you went to law school, and you tell me all the time when you're up there, tell us all the time, you're an attorney. Attorneys do two things. All the time. One, well, I hear it a lot. But anyway, attorneys do one thing. One, a good attorney will tell their client, this is what I think's going to happen. And then the attorney's going to fight like mad to make sure you win. So just because you stand there behind the microphone and say, well, Councilman Bagley or Councilmember Levison or Mayor Coombs, just because you throw stones and have an opinion doesn't mean it's right. And so especially when I hear you talking about these two. That's all I had to say.
I came down here and spoke several times when you were considering your ordinance to regulate drilling in the city and challenge this. You said that what a good lawyer will do a lot more than say whether or not he thinks you're going to win or she thinks you're going to win. Well, explain the law. And to understand the law, you really have to understand why oil and gas commissions were set up in the first place to regulate oil and gas drilling. And to understand that, there's a key point. It's called the rule.
Jeff, we're not being fair to all the other people. I mean,
it's called the rule of capture. And what it says is that the oil and gas underneath anybody's property does not belong to the property owner. It's a common pool that anybody can drill into. And if you read Voss v. Lundvall, what it really did is it explained why you can only have the Oil and Gas Commission locating wells and well sites to get the efficient recovery from the common pool. And all I'm saying is that if this was properly explained to you, and I assume that it was, that you knew at the time you passed that ordinance, it had very little effect of standing up in court, and this was never explained to the public.
If we win, will you buy me a steak dinner?
No, but I'll say I will come down here and say that I'm very surprised. I am very surprised. But can I just say one little thing? I actually think that you can win if you go back through the court system, district court, court of appeals, all the way to the Supreme Court, because you're going to have to get to the Supreme Court on this, and you're going to have to tell the Supreme Court that it decided Voss versus Lundvall and that other twin case wrong, and why they decided it wrong, and I don't think they're going to do that. So these will be my last words. Do you have any problem with having the city put those PDF documents, those briefs and everything, so we can see what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. We'll talk to him. We'll talk to the attorney and see what the problem is.
It's not a legal problem.
Okay.
It's just a policy problem.
Or strategy call. Kay Dyke. Karen Dyke. Followed by Padma Wick.
Hi, I'm Karen Dyke. I'm at 1412 Whitehall Drive. And I'm here requesting that you re-vote on the access road to for Synergy across the Longmont property. I wanted to say that Synergy, I know they already have access. If you drive on 119 or County Road 1 at night, you can see the lights of their drilling rig. They are already out there and there's big lights, so they have access. Since they have access to this well site, one can only assume that maybe what they want is access so that they're ready to drill on Longmont City property if we lose the lawsuit. I know that they have lots of money for this lawsuit, but I have every faith that the people will prevail in this. Here's my questions about the content of the contract. You mentioned that they are going to monitor the water quality. I didn't see anywhere what the parameters were, and I think that the contract must say what the qualities, what it is that they're monitoring for. You know, they aren't monitoring for air quality. And last week at the City Council meeting, I talked about the new studies that talk about how detrimental air quality is to citizens. And, you know, as I said then, air quality doesn't know where Longmont property starts and where Weld County Road is and where Boulder County is. So we need to know what's happening with the air quality. Also not mentioned is what they're doing with the produced water. It talks about dust suppression. Some well operators use produced water and spray it on the roads for dust suppression, and I think you need to spell out that they have to properly store and remove the produced water and not use it for dust suppression. I would suggest that the appropriate limits that be set for the air, water, and land be set at the EPA standards. And that would apply if they didn't have the current exemptions that all the fossil fuel industries have to those national standards. Those standards that they have current exemptions for are the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Superfund Act, the Community Right to Know Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, and the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. If they aren't polluting, they should have no qualms about making an assurance to us that they're going to meet all of those national standards that they're currently exempted from. It's my firm belief, and I know that Councilman Bagley disagrees, but it's my firm belief that Longmont has no obligation to assist Synergy with the access to this site. As a citizen of Longmont, I request that you reconsider this approval at the next City Council meeting. If you do leave this vote in place, at least put in some safeguards for the citizens of Longmont. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Padma Wick, excuse me.
Padma left and she turned her time over to me.
Okay.
Kay Fissinger, 2199 Creekside Drive. Do you see them, council members and Mayor Coombs? Lots of us do. There are 3 800-pound gorillas in these chambers, and they are wearing placards around their necks with their names on them. Can you read them from the dais? I'll help. That one over there says oil and gas. Over here is a life bridge. And that last big boy back there, that's Governor Hickenlooper. They are watching you. But so are we. You see, we live in Longmont. We care about Longmont. That guy over there, he only wants to get his hands on his leased minerals in the cheapest way possible, without causing chagrin to his bride over there, Lifebridge. Lifebridge is in Firestone. Doesn't give a rat's behind about Longmont. And then there's the Gov. He must be having lots of sleepless nights asking himself what all this rigmarole will do to his re-election possibilities. Golly, a 3-week trial in August with the strong possibility of an adverse ruling to him coming at the height of his campaign. There is no good and justifiable reason to grant Lifebridge and Synergy Energy access across Longmont-owned property to their wells. And let me say that again, because 4 of you are hard of hearing. There is no good or justifiable reason to grant Lifebridge and Synergy Energy access across Longmont-owned property to get to their wells. There's a road there on that property already, probably 150 feet or more. There's an existing surface use agreement for an access road, and Synergy has been using it all along. So why don't they want that one? Well, it's really not so much them as it is Lifebridge. Remember those PUDs in 2007? The intention was to build expensive waterfront homes in the area where the drill and the current access road exist. The rig and the modern portion of the property won't be there forever. But geez, oh Pete's, Lifebridge doesn't want all that truck traffic in the area where they want to make gobs and gobs of money selling those big expensive homes. And that nice little agreement, the one they allowed to make us so forcefully presented on behalf of Lifebridge and Synergy Energy, well, guess what? It's for 20 years. Yep, 20 years. And by the way, which of you is going to take a trip down that well bore hole out around half a mile under the reservoir to be certain that it hasn't been fracked? Yeah. Didn't think I'd get any takers on that one. Don't frack Longmont. By any definition, and however you spell it. There is nothing I can say to convince the 25,000 people who voted to ban fracking and its waste products in Longmont that will convince us that this is a good idea for Longmont. As to Mr. Bagley's contention that it will help Longmont rid its regulation suit, 4-letter word, bull. I spoke to an attorney on this, one intimately involved with both of the lawsuits. There would have been no dismissal with prejudice. Google won't hear the hell of that one. There might be a maneuver to dismiss without prejudice and rejuvenate the suit after the 2014 election. Koga and the governor have dug in their heels. They want all oil and gas power vested in the state, and they are not going to cede that position. Make no mistake, Koga will throw John Hickenlooper under the bus in a heartbeat if that were to come about. And the suit can't be dismissed in any way, shape, or form without Koga's agreement. Guess what the attorney I talked to said, Councilman Bagley? He said you were, quote, blowing smoke, end quote. So I asked the Longmont public, who are you going to believe? The people who worked their butts off to protect Longmont and the voters who agreed? Or, as Al Franken's book was titled, Lies, and the lying liars who tell them. Thank you.
Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. What's up with being called names tonight? You know? Kay, I love you. You know?
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. I love you. I'm not lying. I don't care. I don't know who this attorney was. Oh, I mean, really? Really? You know, okay, I earn $953 a month net to do this job. I've never taken one dime in bribes or, you know, I have nothing to gain here other than a love for Longmont. And I mean, that's it. And so,
That's a little badly. Nobody said you were taking bribes. Don't put words into my
you
mouth.
called me a liar. You called me a liar.
I called you a liar because of your position on oil and gas, and Dave, I don't need your 2 cents worth either.
But what do you mean my position on oil and gas?
How many times have you said deal, baby, deal?
No.
I know that you have told me about wanting to defend the lawsuits.
Right.
And I've believed you for a long time, but now you have called that in question because you are bending over backwards to grant something that does not need to be granted and will not help the lawsuit.
Okay, I understand. Okay, I understand what you're saying, but I'm reminded of. Okay, I understand. I view it as we just disagree. Sorry.
And go ahead, Gabe. You're next. Have at me. You've been wanting to do this for a very, very long time.
No,
That's Mayor Santos.
thank you, Mayor. No, not really. What's happening, and what I've tried to, for the last discussions for oil and gas, people have taken this way too emotional. Trying to find the fact and and try to separate the emotion. What some people say is fact is another person's fiction. I said this throughout the entire discussion of oil and gas. This report says this. This person says, nope, that's fiction. I have another report that says the complete opposite. And we got accused. I've been accused. Well, you're taking money from oil and gas. You're taking money from this. Last week we were accused by a member of the public. Follow the money. Follow the money. That's what you need to do is follow the money. I make the same amount of money that Councilmember Bagley does. Show me the money. Because I haven't seen a dime. I paid attention. I listened to every single one of y'all's comments throughout the entire oil and gas conversation. I'm listening tonight. Strip the emotion away. When I talked to somebody prior to the Synergy vote for 20 minutes, the end result was we don't want oil and gas drilling of any sort. Of any sort. What do we get out of this? There's no fracking in the city of Longmont. We get water monitoring. They follow our rules and regs. We get to inspect. We get to inspect. We get to inspect. We get to inspect. We get to find out where they drill. We get to find the coordinates. I have no problem with that. But some people do. That's where we have our difference of opinion. And it's okay to have a difference of opinion. But it's when the hatred and viciousness gets into this. I have no need for that. But it's when that comes across, I pay attention. If the hatred that's coming across and the way you're looking at me right now, that's okay. If that's what you need to make you feel comfortable, bless you.
That sounds so right-wing, Gabe. I have seen it it does, because I've seen it so many times in the Times call and the comments for people who are really supportive of you. They'd also call me the high priestess of hatred. Well, you know something? I have real problems when I see this city violating what I think should be a code of ethics. And I've been coming down, not recently so much, for 7 years. And I have seen this city give away and get cozy over and over and over. With people because they're their friends, because they think alike politically. I have seen staff come down with just the information to get what they want. And they know how to count to 4. That's the only math you need at City Council. Can you count to 4? Staff knows this very well, but so does the public. You are doing something to help Synergy Energy and Life Ridge Christian Church And there are no two ways about that. You can sit there, any one of you, and deny that to me. But there are people in this town who do know. And whether or not those 25,000 people who voted for this agree with me politically is irrelevant. They said they don't want anything to do with oil and gas in the city of Longmont. And that, quite frankly, means giving access to another city to do what's not allowed here. So yeah, I'm angry. I'm very, very angry. And I'm going to make no apologies to you or to anybody in this town for what I see is a violation of what the people want, what they voted for, and what they want defended. I don't want to see this chipped away piece by piece, so ultimately it's nothing left, and then you settle it. You can settle the red seat. But thank God, because it's a charter amendment. And by the way, that was my idea. And I did it to tie your hands. The court can do away with it. God bless the court. Perhaps we'll get a better hearing from them than we get from you. Thank you.
Councilmember Gregory.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I know it's emotional. I don't know what happened with LifeBridge before, back in 2007. I wasn't on council. I'd be curious to know what happened, because apparently there's some emotions running over from that as well. But the vote was not about oil and gas. It was about fracking inside city limits. And so once we go beyond and start, we can go to war all we want with the oil and gas industry, but doesn't mean we're going to win. We are going to defend the suits we have to the best of our ability. And I can tell you right now, behind closed doors, the only behind the closed doors comments that I've ever heard happened in an executive session that happened to do with legal strategy. And not once have I heard, even from the most conservative members of this council, that someone's going to be throwing away this lawsuit. On the contrary, you've got 7, some stronger than others, but 7 committed to defending these lawsuits. And you can think that I and fellow council members are liars. If that's true, my participation in the governor's oil and gas task force was a great facade. I took some hits. My party won't talk to me on this issue. So all I can say is I know it's an emotional issue. And because it's your idea, Kay, I know you don't want to see the ball dropped. But I can guarantee you, like, for example, Jeff wants to see PDF files. Good idea in theory. I have no idea what Eugene May is going to say, but you can either have all the information and make the arguments you want, or you can win. And so I have clients all the time coming in saying, you know what, I'm going to tell that SOB, or I'm going to tell that wife of mine, or I'm going to tell this guy. No, you're not. You're going to win. And so there's a lot of emotion, and it feels good to say these things. But it's not going to help. Meaning, I want to win. And so we can either be rational and calm and win, or try to win, or we can fight. And I'd rather win than fight. And people can hate me for it, but that's where I come down. And I can vouch for everybody up here that everybody's of the same mind. Regardless of what they think our chances are, we are throwing everything we've got at this lawsuit. Period, full stop.
At both lawsuits.
At both lawsuits. And when I say settle, I'm not an idiot. I know what dismissal without prejudice would mean. It means that the governor runs for re-election and then they pick it up again after. I'm not dumb. We're not dumb. The lawsuit team's not dumb. We understand the playing field and we want to win. That's why it has to be dismissal with prejudice. And if they don't dismiss, guess what? Oh, well, we'll go to court and we'll fight. So we're just trying the best we can to win. And I know that people are upset and worried about the conclusion, but nothing we can do about it right now except do our best. I'm telling you, we're doing our best.
Starter Dunstan.
Yeah, I kind of wobble again. I had a bit. I had a black ice wreck Sunday on my way to church, and my back went out. Strider Benston, 951 17th Avenue. Most of the people tonight have gone 10 or 15 minutes over their time. I hope I don't get cut off, as is my history, if I go over 30 seconds or 1 minute, because my whole life, that is normally what happens. I'm not going to be very long. I appreciate strongly the passion and the sincerity that Brian Bagley has brought up tonight, and he's pretty good on facts, too. Although there's been a lot of new stuff that's come up tonight that I think council has not considered, and especially Jim and Karen and Jeff and Kay brought up a lot of things. I have thought in my back mind, I have thought that LifeBridge might be involved in this on the Koga side, and Kay brought it back up to my forebrain. So I think that council really does need to revisit this and might consider the compromise that Jim Kenworthy brought up to give a 5-year lease instead of a 20-year lease. But at any rate, there is new stuff, and I think it ought to be reconsidered. Although I certainly was almost and pretty much convinced by Brian Bagley about what the options and the the positions are, given the power of the state and the power of Koga and the power of our ordinance and our city charter. One thing I wanted to bring up is the whole question of democratic politics, which is actively being sabotaged by one of our major political parties, and has been for a number of years. And look right now at West Virginia. This secret corporation called Freedom Industries has just poisoned the Elk River, and 300,000 people are not able to drink their water. Well, what happened a couple of years ago? Upper Big Branch Mine, which had 900 violations and killed 30 miners. Maybe the people of West Virginia will first start to wake up, because they have been crushed by the coal industry for more than a century to prevent democracy from erupting in West Virginia. And part of the game plan for the last 50 years has been dog whistle politics. And somebody finally wrote a book by that name. His name is Ian Lopez, just coming out right now, that the entire game plan to divert the American public from looking at the real issues and what democracy is all about is this secret racism game. And as you may know, Lee Atwater, who was Reagan and Herbert Walker Bush's campaign advisor, basically flat out said, he said, everything that comes up, the real game back door is racism. And you got to be understanding that the whole tax game, the whole, the whole question of big government and little government and states' rights, that's really what's behind it all. But I would like to go into, and also the Supreme Court destroying our right to vote. The history of our country is the history of the struggle for democratic, democracy, human rights, and a livable society. And my friend, guide, colleague, and mentor, Martin Luther King, made that his whole life work. I'd like to give you a brief story about Martin Luther King, and then I'll finish with a short poem. No song this year. Yeah, sorry about that. But in 1961, I wasn't there. I was too young. I was a junior in high school in Malvern, Arkansas. But the Freedom Rides coming into Alabama. First, the bus was blown up in Anniston, Alabama, and a mob of 1,500 thugs with power tools and chains and baseball bats attacked the bus riders. And then they got rescued into Birmingham, and then the next day, another mob, similar size, attacked them in Birmingham, and then 4 days later, they went down to Montgomery, and the police disappeared, and they were attacked by another mob of 1,500 people, and then 3,000 racists with bricks and bats and everything attacked the First Baptist Church all night long, and could have been firebombed. People were, cognizant of that. Here's the story. It's very brief. About 10:30 at night, Martin Luther King, who was speaking in the church, who was besieged by this mob, said, "I want to see the hands of how many men are completely committed to nonviolence who will stand with me." And about 8 hands went up out of 1,000 people in the church. And Martin took those 8 men, and he walked out. He had heard, truthfully, that the cab drivers in Montgomery were armed, the black cab drivers, and they were going to come in and rescue the people from the church. But we might have had a war had that come up. And Martin learned this, and he called for these volunteers, and Martin and about 8 men walked through the mob and went and talked to the head of the cab drivers union and said, "We can't do this, you've got to go home." And they went home, and then he came back through the mob and went back into the church. And 400 federal marshals could not hold the mob back that night, but about dawn, Bobby Kennedy had sent in the National Guard, and they finally got the mob dispersed, and people got out of the church. That was one thing Martin Luther King did several years before I personally knew him. Here's my poem. I think I've done it before. It's been a long road to hoe now from Ducktown to Longmont, and I pray there's still more yet to come. I've been pushing this plow over hard, stony ground, trying to plant y'all some trees and some flowers. And I've seen many cold dawns and strode mostly alone while I worshiped the sun and the snow. And I've carried the memory of all I've encountered, and I'm trying to make sense of it all. Someone gave me a mission I've been trying to be true to as I plowed every step of the way. Yet my guides have been scattered, wearing many disguises while I'd listened to what they might say. Some spoke backwards, some frontwards, some screamed and then cursed, first at me, then at that which I love. But I've searched for the meaning in what all I've encountered as an off-cryptic sign from above. Now confusions have plagued me, many dangers waylaid me as I ran up this crooked old trail. I keep getting back up from the swamp and the muck, praying someone might stand for my bail. But the night has been long, stifled many a song that my heart is still longing to hear. And I try even now, though I still ain't learned how to dispel that old demon, my fear. And he keeps right on lurking, crushing all of my working for love, beauty, justice, and truth. So my path kept on winding to escape the confining prison walls which have stolen my youth. And I ran up the mountain, shout my name to the stars, then return to my hovel alone, knowing nothing is promised but to do what I came for and to stand up and sing you my song. I think this open forum is absolutely wonderful. I appreciate the courage and the interchange that council has given to people tonight. I agreed with 98% of what was said tonight. Some of it maybe too strongly, some of it not strongly enough, but the encounter with council, that is what a community is all about. And I was here 6 or 7 years ago when we brought up the forums, and I think we ought to do it 3 times a year. Consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Strider. Dwayne Lease is up. Is our final speaker for the night.
Hello, my name is Dwayne Lease. I live at 2686 Pearl Howlett Road, Longmont, Colorado. I also want to thank City Council for listening tonight. It has been a belief of mine for a long time that truth comes out of contention. Just taking somebody at face value, or cuddling up and being close to someone because it feels good and easy to follow them, and to not hear your own voice, and to create your own voice, knowing what is a good thing, and then fighting tooth and nail for it. You are the responsible party here. Whether that road is going to go through. There isn't anybody else. It doesn't come down to anybody else. Fighting for something that's right, something that is good. If you don't carry the fight, and that fight doesn't have to be by the rules. They are, however, you can win. But the rules doesn't mean that you're doing something that's wrong or illegal or bad. It just means you're not following this thing of like, oh, that's what conventional wisdom says we should do. So if all of a sudden I was to say something very loud, just to get attention, I can be much more dramatic than that. But you are the responsible party, not anybody else. There is no reason for that road to be given by the city of Longmont, period. It does not increase our ability to be able to win the lawsuits. Not in the least. The oil and gas industry was ready, willing, and prepared to drill within 150 feet. I believe that's what the state rules are. They don't care. They don't care. Oh, we'll play nice here. We'll do this. And the other thing here that I find very, very interesting about this, it's for this one well, or this one site. If we were getting something that, no matter what happened with the lawsuits, we would get, water monitoring, we'd get, this, and we'd get that for the entire city, no matter what happened with the lawsuits, I'd say that'd be a win. That'd be something to consider. But if you don't carry the fight, you can't win the fight. You must use the power while you have the power. Will we be worrying about our water supply with 300,000 people not having water? They've lost it. They've lost their ability. It wasn't the city council that said, charge, let's defend the people. Oh, you say, oh, what's that all about? That's just us, the way we think about it. But if you don't protect your health, and you don't protect the well-being of the people, what are you doing? What is this all about? Oh, we're going to go this way or that way. We're going to do this or that. Stay focused. Stay focused. If you can't stay focused on what the prize is, there's no, it's useless. Here, right now, I see a couple of things. One, if I may, I think personally that this fracking ban that Longmont put into place is one of the best public relation things we have ever done for those people who are upwardly mobile, who want to choose a place and have the ability to choose a place to live. They will choose Longmont because Longmont believes in those particular values, and those are important values. Once again, I want to thank you all for listening to this, making this available to the people of Longmont. But by golly, don't stand behind somebody else. Don't go saying, oh, well, let me, he knows better, or I won't have to take the hit. Martin Luther King, it's only each individual doing what they think is right. That's how it comes out. And the truth comes out of contention. You got to do this. You have to take the hit. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. It's time for oh, okay. Would you like to come down and speak?
I'll make this pretty quick. My name is Jim Halberd. I live at 1244 Snowbank Court, Longmont. And man, I've learned a lot tonight. I've never been to a council meeting in my life, and I don't know if I'll ever come back.
This is not normal.
I don't know, between meth houses and fracking and losing your Longmont triathlon, it's like, you know, pick your battles, right? So obviously I'm here for the Longmont Tri. I'm a coach. I've done the race. Had a lot of people, new people, start the race. You know, the usual. Longmont's not in competition with anybody else. I think that's clearly proven. I understand the concerns about the road closures, and I think it's, you know, I know Darren, I know Lance putting on Without Limits with the other races at Union. I think those have much greater road impact than Longmont. I've sat down with Karen to discuss new routes, and we've been over it. And being in a landlocked situation, it's the Longmont triathlon is as simple, as least impactful as it can be. The only other option is moving it to LRC, Longmont Rec Center, and having it out there, which is a consideration. You go out, you know, on the county road there. What's that?
The pool sucks.
It does.
Don't go that far, man. But, yeah,
The pool is not a competition pool. It's not a competition pool, so. Okay, well, you guys said it, so whatever. I'm just trying to, you know, provide, you know, options, but the option is not to cancel it. And I think, you know, I think it's been, we got a lot of support. Now the numbers go down, and I could be here for a whole nother slew of things that I see that I think could work on an improvement through the city, because I'm the youth triathlon coach, and I do classes at the rec center, and I swim masters and all that. Marketing, there's no, you know, there's a whole battle. You know, I go down to Longmont Rec Center because my daughter likes to swim there. There's no marketing for what Centennial puts on. So, of course, nobody's going to know about it unless you go to Centennial. You know, we don't act as a Longmont Rec Center like a whole one facility. It's a competition. And I don't get that, because if we're trying to build the program, then we got to work together and we got to support each program. Like, you know, every facility has something to offer. So specialize in that. Specialize with what Centennial has. It's competition pool. Let's have competitions there. Let's make it a competition, you know, facility. It's a good one. Okay? Do we need kids, you know, that freeze and, you know, can't swim and freeze in the... No, great. You know, you want to swim, go down to the Longmont Rec Center, where the water is nicer, a little more warmer for the kids. All right. Again, it's going back to getting rid of things that are successful. The mud hen, you know, did there no impact. No impact on, you know, routes, and it was, you know, why are we getting rid of, well, allocation of resources? Did it make money? Yep. Why did we get rid of it? I don't know. Let's give it to Habitat for Humanity. Let's let somebody else deal with the headache. Okay, that's weird. The winter sprinter. I coach athletes all over the state, all over the country. And I get people, I say, you know what? This is a good event. Come up here. Let's see where your fitness is. Come have some fun. It's an adult swim event. An adult swim event. I've never been in a swim event in my life until the winter sprinter. We have an adult swim event, and we're going to cancel it. Allocation resources. We don't have the resources to run it. Like, wow, how hard is it to run? You got 200 adults that are former high school swimmers. They're like, hey, this is good old times. You've never even heard of an adult swim event of this, you know, like this. I've never had heard. But we'll cancel it. Did it make money? Did it cost money to run? Did it actually inhibit anything? No. It's a Saturday morning. You're done by noon. Let's cancel it. You know, I mean, it seems like we're keep giving away things that are, you know, productive. And I'm just kind of confused. And I think there's a lot to consider, you know, there's a lot you guys have to, I don't know how you're sleeping at, you know. But, you know, I hope you guys really enjoy your coffee in the morning and really, like, you know, appreciate the sunrise and the sunset. And, you know, because this is, you know, we're all picking our battles here, right? Anyway, thank you for listening to me. I really encourage you to keep what works and keep growing and you know, if there's people that want to do it and it's healthy and it's successful and it brings the community together, and don't quit it. I'm like, that just doesn't make sense. So thank you.
That's my Larson. Thanks for sticking around, John. One thing to give you hope is that the ice skating rink went on the chopping block, got chopped, and somebody brought it back with a lot of community support coming forward. So that ice skating rink lives on with greater revenue every year, more participation, and so I say don't lose hope.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And it can be done. And I think there are people willing to help you.
For all the stress that I've seen tonight, you got to have the recreation services to relieve that stress.
Some more than others.
Yeah. Councilman Moore. Thank you, Mayor. So I guess what I'm hearing tonight, there's some support to bring some of these activities back But I think at the end of the day, we would like to see what the financial situation really is, Karen, so that we can understand it and make a decision based not only on public support, but also what city resources are actually being utilized, and whether we are a short resource, whether or not we need to make a decision to change that, and make an informed decision.
Okay. Any other comments from council tonight?
I'm just kidding. So, Jim, were you for or against trucking meth at Union? I'm confused. I'll talk with you offline. I'll talk to
you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm John Coe, 1899 3rd Avenue, and I want to thank you all. One person in particular I want to thank is Councilmember Levinson for pointing me to the Tinker Mill, new establishment here, and I really appreciate that. And I was just down there in their meeting today. They have 3D printers. I thought they were going to have some other presentations here tonight, but it would have been great to show their 3D printers. I just had a couple thoughts about the city, and I think the city does a great job, and it's a wonderful place. And a couple thoughts is, the viaduct, I understand that they're talking about replacing the Main Street Bridge before they fix the viaduct, and I really think it makes sense to raise the viaduct so it would be high enough regardless of the water level for the future. And I believe that they put it in the wrong order, and I think specifically toward raising the viaduct just so it is higher makes sense. The city's acquired land there, et cetera. Another joy I want to share with you is I just bought an electric mountain bike, and it goes 25 miles an hour. It's amazing. In fact, the city owns 4 of these, from what I understand, and they're not being used because our trails are out of commission. My thought is, I go down 3rd Avenue at 25 or so miles an hour, and people pass me. So I'm suggesting that if our police department uses these bikes, both downtown and along some of our residential streets, they'll both get out there as well as have a lot of fun, because they're quiet, there's no noise, there's 1 horsepower. I believe Boulder just approved them being used on the city trails, although I haven't had a chance to watch the news today. But I suggest we follow that trend, allow these bikes. They cut out at 20 miles an hour, so they're very lightweight. But as far as getting these 4 bikes that are, some of them are sitting down at the local distributor down here, getting the police department to use them right here on Main Street, I think would be a fantastic idea, because I use the right lane now when I go down Main Street because the sidewalk says don't use your bike. And I don't have a rear view mirror yet, but I would bet these police officers would have the right technology, as well as some eluding charges, should somebody try and outrun them, because, we need to go out there and have some fun in our city. And as far as these other controversial situations, we're talking about them here. People putting their energy into them. We're not going to stop some things that people say we can, we can't kick the railroads out. We can't stop people using the railroad rights. And we've taken a big step toward that. And I don't want to talk about that because I think we have just a fantastic city. My children are raised here, and the education system did a great job for them too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, be quick.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Daria Laverne, and I live at 429 Emory Street. As far as parades and races and things like that, I have lived at that street, right 2 blocks from Main Street, since 1984. I've put up with parades. How many parades do we have a year?
5,
traffic.
6.
Yeah, so I can do it 5 or 6 times a year. I just find out when they are. I either plan to stay in my home or I leave to go to a movie or do something else. It's just the way I plan my schedule. I'm used to it by now. It's okay. For a while there, it got really annoying because it's always traffic. But now I park my car in my driveway and let an extra person park in front of the curb, just to be courteous, because I know people love coming down to our wonderful city for their parades. Fine. I don't know where to begin on the other stuff I have. So just today I called on a talk show, and I spoke to them after hearing about the net neutrality thing. And I told the guy that we have It's about, open access to the internet, if you haven't heard about it. And they're at the first level in the courts, whatever. I told them that my wonderful city, that I love so much, our citizens passed a fiber optic, high-speed, broadband internet access. We're one of the less than 2 or 3 other cities in the country that have it. And I can't tell you how proud I am of our citizens for getting this together. We have municipal electricity that we've had for over 100 years. Boulder's trying to fight for it now. And a gentleman earlier said, we have a real good value system. I am so proud to live in Longmont. Of all the communities in this country that I could live in, we've taken the forefront in doing things that no other communities have ever even thought of doing. So thank you to all these council people that have been a part of that and voted yes on all these proposals that citizens have fought hard for, like I did. And as far as the fracking, I know you're going to do the best that you can for that, but we've got to continue, like the gentleman said, with our values. The greatest city, I personally think, in the United States. I wouldn't live any place else. So keep up the good work, and anything else we can municipalize, I'm all for it. All this privatization of races and all this stuff, we do a good job in this town. We do a fantastic job with government, with citizens having their voices heard. And that's what matters most to me. And you guys epitomize all of that, no matter, even if you may be on the side of the issue that I don't agree with. So just keep up the good work and fight the good fight. And please do your best to consider that if we give an inch, any for-profit industry will take a mile from us. So please consider that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Darla.
Mayor?
Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I just want to thank you for your civility in expressing your views. I really, really appreciate that. And you epitomize what I enjoy about Longmont.
Okay. Any other comments from council? All right. City manager, any comments? City attorney, any comments? This meeting is adjourned.